The strange thing about the human body is that many of its limits do not feel like ancient history. They feel like tonight, a tired back, a restless sleep, a hunger that returns too soon, a mind that worries in a room that is already safe. We often treat these feelings as personal failures, but some of them may be older than our names, older than our houses, older than memory itself. If the body was shaped for a world that no longer surrounds us, then what exactly was lost along the way? Something is wrong with your body, and it started long ago. There are nights when the body seems to speak in small, quiet complaints. The back does not settle. The shoulders remain tense long after the work is over. The stomach asks for food even when the day has provided enough. The eyes are tired, but the mind keeps listening, as if something outside the room still needs to be watched. Nothing dramatic is happening. There is no storm at the door, no wild animal moving in the dark, no cold ground beneath the ribs. And yet the body can feel uneasy inside a life that is, by the standards of most human history, unusually protected. This is the first strange clue. The modern body often suffers not because it is surrounded by too much danger, but because it carries systems shaped in worlds where danger, hunger, cold, effort, and uncertainty were ordinary companions. To say that something feels wrong with the body is not to say that the body is broken in a simple way. It may be more accurate to say that the body is old in its design, while the world around it has become very new. A chair, a mattress, a heated room, a bright screen, a soft shoe, a full cupboard, and a sealed house are recent arrivals in the long story of our species. They make life safer and easier, but they do not erase the deep history written into bone, muscle, nerves, appetite, and sleep. The body does not wake each morning as a clean invention of the present. It wakes as a living record, carrying adjustments that were useful under older skies. This is why an ordinary ache or restlessness can feel strangely personal when it may also be historical. A person may ask, "Why am I tired when I did not hunt, climb, carry, or flee? Why does my neck hurt after doing almost nothing? Why does sleep feel fragile in a quiet house? Why does comfort not always bring peace?" These questions are not proof of one hidden cause. Human biology is too complex for that. But they point toward a wider pattern. The body was never shaped for perfection. It was shaped for survival. And survival did not require constant comfort. It required enough movement to find food, enough alertness to notice threat, enough appetite to store energy when food was available, enough pain to protect injury, and enough memory to avoid danger that had appeared before. These systems were not designed with modern calm in mind. They were built slowly, through countless generations, under conditions that were uneven and often uncertain. When those old systems are placed inside modern routines, the result can feel confusing. The same nervous system that once helped human beings notice a sound in the night may now keep a person awake after a day of messages, noise, and worry. The same appetite that once favored energy-rich food in a world of scarcity may now meet food that is easy to find and easy to eat. The same spine and hips that belong to a walking animal may spend hours folded into a chair. The same muscles that once changed position throughout the day may become stiff in stillness. None of this means that the past was healthier, purer, or easier. It was not. Early human life included hardship, injury, disease, and loss. It is important not to romanticize it. But it is also important not to forget that our bodies were shaped there, long before the rooms we live in, the tools we use, and the schedules we obey. The feeling of being slightly out of place may come from that distance. A body formed through deep time now lives among objects and habits that arrived only recently. The mismatch does not always shout. Often, it whispers through fatigue, stiffness, shallow breathing, restless sleep, cravings, and a mind that cannot fully relax even when the night is safe. This does not make the body an enemy. It makes the body a messenger. It is not simply telling a person that something is wrong today. It may be carrying the echo of older conditions, older pressures, and older compromises. The discomfort of the present may begin with a history that never fully ended. It is easy to turn the body into an accusation. When sleep is restless, a person may think they are undisciplined. When the back aches after sitting, they may think they are weak. When hunger returns too soon, they may blame themselves for lacking control. When worry rises in a safe room, They may feel as if the mind has failed to understand reality. Modern life often teaches people to read discomfort as a private defect. The body becomes a problem to correct, a machine that should perform better, rest faster, digest quietly, move without pain, age without complaint, and remain calm on command. But the human body was not made as a smooth machine. It is a living inheritance, shaped by long pressures that did not ask for comfort, elegance, or constant balance. Many of its reactions are not signs of moral failure. They are older responses appearing in newer surroundings. This distinction matters because it changes the way the central question is heard. Something may feel wrong with the body, but that does not mean the person is wrong. The uneasiness may begin far before the individual life, in a biological story that no one chose. Human beings carry bodies that were shaped across changing climates, landscapes, food sources, social groups, and dangers. No single ancestor lived the whole story, and no simple image of the past can explain everything. Still, some broad facts are widely accepted. Human bodies belong to mammals. They need movement, sleep, warmth, food, social connection, and recovery. They respond to threat. They store energy. They protect injured tissue. They learn from repeated stress. These features are not modern mistakes. They are part of the deep structure of being human. The trouble begins when old protective systems meet conditions they were not slowly shaped to expect. A body that reacts strongly to uncertainty may now face uncertainty in the form of bills, messages, deadlines, medical tests, and social judgment. The danger is often abstract, but the body still answers with breath, tension, attention, and wakefulness. A body that once benefited from conserving effort may now live in rooms where movement is optional for long stretches. A body that learned to value calorie-dense food may now encounter it in constant supply. A body that used pain to limit damage may now produce warning signals after repeated posture, low movement, poor rest, or stress that has no clear beginning. These are not excuses, and they are not medical diagnoses. They are ways to understand why the body can seem unreasonable while still acting according to old principles. The beginning of the human story was never a world of perfect health. It was a world of trade-offs. Stronger bones and muscles had costs. Alertness had costs. Storing energy had costs. Social sensitivity had costs. A nervous system that noticed danger could help survival, but it could also remain tense. An appetite that encouraged eating when food was available could protect against future scarcity, but it could also become difficult in a world where food is always near. A spine that allowed upright walking freed the hands and changed human movement, but it also placed new demands on balance, hips, knees, and the lower back. None of these features are failures in themselves. They are compromises. Evolution does not build for happiness in the modern sense. It does not build for a quiet evening after work, or for sitting under artificial light, or for sleeping beside a glowing device, or for keeping the same posture through hours of mental labor. It shapes living bodies through what was good enough to continue. This is why self-blame is often too narrow. It begins with the final symptom and ignores the long road behind it. The tired person sees only tonight. The aching person sees only the chair. The restless person sees only the bed. But the body brings with it older layers. The need to move, the need to scan, the need to eat when food is present, the need to remain connected to others, the need to prepare for changes that may never come. Modern surroundings can soften life, but they can also separate the body from many of the rhythms that once organized it. Light no longer fades in the same way. Food no longer arrives through effort in the same way. Work no longer always uses the whole body. Rest no longer means the absence of signals. Safety no longer guarantees calm. To understand this is not to reject modern life. Modern life has protected human beings from many ancient hardships. It has reduced many dangers that shaped the body with great force. But comfort does not automatically translate into biological ease. Sometimes it reveals how old the body is. Sometimes it shows that a living inheritance can survive into a world that no longer resembles the one that formed it. The body may be asking for something more patient than blame. It may be asking to be understood as history still breathing through the present. The modern body carries more than organs and bones. It carries a long record of conditions that came before language, before writing, before houses became ordinary, before food could be stored behind a door, and light could be summoned by touching a wall. This record is not kept like a memory in the mind. It is kept in the shape of joints, the sensitivity of nerves, the way hunger rises, the way the eyes respond to darkness, the way muscles weaken when unused, and the way sleep remains open to disturbance. A person may live in a city, work with a screen, travel by machine, and rest on a soft mattress. Yet the body beneath these habits was shaped through a much older relationship with ground, weather, effort, and other living beings. That is why the feeling of something being wrong can be so difficult to name. It is not always one clear problem. It is often a quiet collision between inherited biology and the world that now surrounds it. The body asks for movement, but the day may ask for stillness. The body expects light to change slowly, but the room may stay bright deep into the night. The body expects food to be connected to effort and uncertainty, but food may appear without distance, season, or delay. The body expects social signals to matter, because for human beings, life has long depended on others. But modern signals can arrive endlessly through voices, images, and written messages from people who are not even in the room. Each of these small separations may seem ordinary. Together, they create a life in which the body is protected and unsettled at the same time. This does not mean the ancient world was better. It only means that the body was formed in contact with a different set of limits. Human beings did not begin as creatures of perfect comfort. They began as living animals among changing environments, with bodies that had to solve practical problems again and again. How to move across uneven land, how to carry, reach, bend, watch, listen, eat, sleep, heal, cooperate, and endure. The solutions were never perfect. They were layered. Older systems remained, while newer habits grew over them. A modern person may therefore experience the body as if it contains several histories at once. The hands can operate a phone, but the shoulder and neck still respond to posture and strain. The mind can understand that a message is not a predator, but the nervous system may still answer uncertainty with alertness. The stomach can receive more food than it needs, but appetite may still be pulled by older pressures toward energy and availability. The bed can be soft, the walls can be strong, and the door can be locked, but sleep may still behave like a state that must be entered carefully. These traces do not prove that every discomfort has an ancient cause. Human bodies are affected by age, illness, work, stress, injury, culture, poverty, wealth, habits, and many other forces. But the deep beginning of the body gives these forces a place to land. A chair affects a spine that evolved for upright movement. Artificial light affects a brain that still responds to cycles of light and dark. Constant food affects an appetite shaped in relation to energy and survival. Social pressure affects a nervous system built for life with others. The present is not separate from the beginning. It sits on top of it. This is the quiet idea behind the title. Something can feel wrong because the body is not simply modern. It is a survivor of older worlds living inside a new arrangement of objects, schedules, temperatures, foods, lights, and expectations. The ache after stillness, the fatigue after mental work, the craving after a full meal, the worry in a safe room, and the broken sleep in a comfortable bed are not identical problems. They do not have one simple explanation, but they share a deeper pattern. They show that the body is not only reacting to what is happening now, it is also reacting with tools made long before now. The body is not a blank surface. It is a slow inheritance. And when the surrounding world changes faster than the body can be reshaped, the past does not disappear. It remains present in small signals, asking to be read with patience rather than surprise. Before comfort became normal, the human body met the world more directly. It met the ground through the feet, the weather through the skin, darkness through the eyes, and distance through the legs. Today, many of these meetings are softened before they reach us. Floors are flat. Shoes are padded. Rooms are warmed or cooled. Beds lift the body away from the earth. Chairs hold the hips in a fixed shape. Windows separate wind from breath. Light remains available long after the sun has gone. These changes are not small in the daily life of the body. They are part of the reason modern people can live longer, safer, and less exposed lives than many people in the past. Yet the body receiving all this comfort was not slowly made for constant softness. It was shaped in older conditions, where rest and effort were more closely tied to land, season, labour, danger, and the needs of the group. This does not mean every early human life looked the same. Across deep time, people lived in different climates, used different tools, moved through different landscapes, and found different ways to survive. But the broad contrast remains clear. For most of the human story, the body could not assume that the surface beneath it would be smooth, that the temperature would stay steady, that food would appear without physical work, or that darkness could be pushed away whenever it became inconvenient. Comfort, in the modern sense, is a recent shelter around a much older animal body. A mattress may feel ordinary now, but the body's deep history includes resting on surfaces that were harder, colder, uneven, or shared with the sounds of the surrounding world. A chair may feel like a simple object, but long sitting in one position asks the hips, back, and neck to remain in patterns that the body does not always tolerate easily. Electric light may feel harmless, but the brain still responds to light as information about time, wakefulness, and safety. A heated room may seem like nothing more than kindness, but the body's systems for warming, cooling, shivering, sweating, and conserving energy were shaped in a world where temperature had to be answered by the whole organism. These comforts protect us, but they also reveal how much of the body was built before such protection became ordinary. The human foot, for example, is not just a platform. It is a flexible structure that senses ground, adjusts balance, and helps transfer force through the body. Modern shoes can protect it from injury and harsh surfaces, which is valuable, but they also change the relationship between foot and ground. The spine is not just a column for sitting. It is part of a moving system, connected to hips, ribs, breathing, shoulders, and the head. When it is held still for long periods, it may complain not because it is defective, but because its older pattern expects variation. The eyes and brain are not simply instruments for reading screens. They are organs of orientation, built to respond to distance, brightness, movement, faces, and changes in the environment. When they spend long hours fixed on close glowing surfaces, fatigue can appear in a life that does not look physically difficult from the outside. Again, this is not an argument against modern tools. It is a calmer observation. The body was shaped before these tools, and it has not completely rewritten itself around them. The beginning of the human story was not comfortable, but it was full of signals that matched the body's needs in direct ways. Light rose and faded. Movement shifted throughout the day. Rest had to be found within the limits of place and weather. Heat, cold, hunger, effort, and social presence were not separate categories. They were woven into the same living rhythm. In modern rooms, these rhythms can be separated. A person can be mentally exhausted while physically still, warm while inactive, fed without effort, tired under bright light, socially stimulated while physically alone, safe while alert, comfortable while stiff. This separation may be one reason the body feels strange inside modern ease. The old systems are still waiting for cues that once came from the world itself. When those cues are muted, delayed, replaced, or exaggerated, the body may not settle as smoothly as the mind expects. It is surrounded by softness, but it is not made only of softness. It is surrounded by convenience, but it still carries the memory of effort. It lives under roofs, behind walls and inside routines, yet its deeper design began under open skies, where comfort was never guaranteed, and the body learned to listen before it learned to relax. A body shaped before comfort was not shaped for one stable condition. It was shaped for adjustment. Warmth could change, light could change, food could change. The distance between safety and danger could change. The ground underfoot could rise, slope, soften, harden, or break. Even when people later built shelters, used fire, made tools, and created more stable ways of living, the body itself remained a system of response. It had to notice, correct, conserve, release, tense, relax, and move again. This is one of the quiet differences between the older human world and the modern one. Today, many environments are built to reduce change. A room may keep the same temperature for hours, A chair may hold the body in the same position. A screen may keep the eyes at the same distance. Work may ask for repeated attention without much whole-body movement. Food may arrive at predictable times or appear constantly without any real search. The modern setting often tries to remove friction, but the body did not grow out of a frictionless story. It grew out of a world where change was not an interruption. Change was the normal condition. The muscles, joints, skin, lungs, eyes, and nervous system all belong to that older pattern. They are not passive pieces waiting to be placed somewhere comfortable. They are listening systems. They gather information from pressure, temperature, light, hunger, breath, balance, sound, and contact with others. When the environment becomes too steady in some ways and too intense in others, the body can become confused. It may sit in a warm room and still feel restless. It may eat enough and still feel pulled toward more. It may lie down on a soft bed and still remain alert. It may spend the whole day without physical danger and still feel the signs of strain. This does not mean the body wants hardship. Hardship can injure, exhaust, and shorten life. But the body does seem to need variation. It needs shifts in posture, changes in effort, clearer boundaries between day and night, and signals that tell it when to prepare and when to release. In older human conditions, many of these signals came from the environment itself. The body had to respond to weather, terrain, distance, tools, carrying, gathering, making, watching, and moving with others. We should be careful not to imagine this too neatly. There was no single prehistoric routine, and no one can describe every daily pattern with certainty. Still, across human history, the body's basic needs were tied more closely to physical reality than they often are now. Effort was not only exercise, it was part of obtaining food, reaching places, building shelter, caring for children, preparing materials, and maintaining life. Rest was not only something scheduled after work, it came after bodily use, changing light, social quiet, or the limits of the day. Alertness was not only anxiety floating in the mind, it was connected to actual surroundings, to sound, smell, movement, weather, animals, strangers, and the group. The modern world has separated many of these things. A person can feel alert without a visible danger, hungry without scarcity, tired without movement, stiff without injury, overstimulated without leaving a chair. This separation is one reason the body may feel as though it is sending the wrong signals. But the signals may not be entirely wrong. They may be old signals arriving without their original setting. The nervous system still adjusts to uncertainty. The muscles still expect use. The joints still prefer motion over long sameness. The eyes still respond to light as a message about time. The stomach still belongs to a body that learned, over very long periods, that energy mattered. The skin still reads warmth, cold, pressure, and contact. The breath still changes with emotion and attention. These systems are ancient not because they are primitive, but because they are deeply tested parts of human life. The trouble begins when the surrounding world asks them to remain quiet while it gives them mixed instructions. Stay still, but stay productive. Be safe, but stay alert. Be full, but keep wanting. Be tired, but remain under bright light. Be comfortable, but do not move. The body answers these contradictions in the only language it has: tension, fatigue, craving, wakefulness, stiffness, unease. Seen this way, the question in the title becomes less like an accusation and more like an investigation. Something may feel wrong with the body because the body was built to adapt to shifting conditions. While much of modern life offers a strange combination of too much sameness and too much signal, the beginning of this problem did not appear in one moment. It began long ago, in the distance between a body made for living response and a world that increasingly asks that body to be still, quiet, and endlessly convenient. Comfort can hide an old limit for a while, but it does not remove it. A soft chair can reduce the immediate demand on the legs, yet after many hours the hips may feel trapped, the back may stiffen, and the neck may begin to hold the weight of attention. A warm room can protect the body from cold, yet the body's older systems for temperature, movement, and daily rhythm do not simply disappear because the air has become controlled. A soft bed can support tired muscles, yet sleep may still break apart if the nervous system remains full of light, worry, noise, or unfinished signals from the day. This is one of the quiet paradoxes of modern life. Comfort often solves the surface problem, but it can reveal a deeper one. The body is not only asking to be protected, it is also asking to be used, oriented, challenged gently, and returned to rhythms that make sense to its older design. When comfort removes too much friction, the body may lose some of the ordinary cues that once helped it regulate itself. In earlier human life, the world gave instructions through the whole day. The ground asked the feet to adjust. Distance asked the legs to work. Darkness asked the mind to change its state. Cold asked the body to conserve heat or seek shelter. Heat asked it to slow down, sweat, or find shade. Hunger was connected to time, effort, uncertainty, and the group. Rest was not always perfect, but it was surrounded by clearer signals from light, movement, temperature, and social quiet. Modern comfort can soften these signals until the body is left without the same kind of guidance. It may then complain in ways that seem unreasonable. A person may feel tired but unable to sleep, full but still drawn toward food, safe but still tense, inactive but still sore, comfortable but not restored. These are not proof that comfort is bad. Comfort has spared human beings from many forms of suffering that were common in the past. Warmth, shelter, clean bedding, medical care, reliable food, and protection from the weather are real human achievements. The point is not to praise hardship. The point is to see that comfort can create a new problem when it becomes the whole environment. A body formed through movement does not become healthier simply because movement is no longer required. A nervous system shaped to read natural cycles does not become calmer simply because night can be filled with artificial light. A metabolism shaped in relation to effort and scarcity does not become wiser simply because food is easier to find. A social brain shaped for face, voice, touch, and shared presence does not become fully satisfied by endless signals from far away. The modern world often gives the body substitutes for ancient cues, but the substitutes do not always speak the same language. This is why the feeling of something being wrong may grow strongest in the most comfortable places. It may appear in the bedroom, where the body should rest. It may appear at the desk, where the body seems to be doing almost nothing. It may appear after a meal, when hunger should be quiet. It may appear in a safe house, when worry should have no reason to remain awake. Each scene contains the same hidden tension. The environment has become easier than the body's history prepared it for, but also less complete in the signals the body expects. The beginning of this tension lies far back in the long shaping of human life. The body learned through repeated contact with uneven ground, changing weather, shifting light, physical work, social dependence, and uncertain food. Modern comfort reduces many of those pressures, but the systems built under them are still present. They still need movement to maintain strength. They still need darkness to understand night. They still use discomfort to ask for change. They still respond to stress even when the stress is symbolic rather than immediate. They still treat energy as important because for most living things energy has always mattered. So when modern people feel uneasy inside comfort, the body may not be rejecting safety. It may be showing that safety alone is not the same as alignment. A protected body can still be underused. A rested body can still be overstimulated. A fed body can still be confused. A warm body can still be disconnected from rhythm. What looks like a personal weakness may be a sign of an older body living among inventions that arrived too recently to reshape it completely. Comfort has changed the room around us, but it has not changed the long beginning inside us. The human body is not only a thinking body, or a working body, or a resting body. It is, before all of that, a moving body. Movement is not an extra feature added to human life after survival was solved. It belongs near the beginning of the human story. Long before people lived by clocks, desks, vehicles, and fixed rooms, the body had to cross distance, carry weight, rise from the ground, turn toward sound, reach for objects, bend, squat, climb, balance, and walk across surfaces that did not stay perfectly level. Human beings are not the strongest animals, nor the fastest, nor the most protected by teeth, claws, or thick hides. but the human body became skilled in another way. It could travel, adjust, coordinate hands and eyes, use tools, share effort with others, and keep moving through a changing landscape. This does not mean ancient life was one long march, or that every person moved in the same pattern. It would be dishonest to pretend we know that. But it is safe to say that human bodies were shaped in contexts where physical movement was woven into ordinary survival. Movement was not a separate activity, called exercise. It was part of finding food, preparing materials, caring for others, making shelter, carrying children, gathering plants, tracking paths, escaping danger, and returning to places that mattered. The body was formed through use. Muscles responded to demand. Bones responded to load. Joints stayed alive through variation. Balance was trained by the ground itself. Breathing changed with pace. The heart and blood vessels worked with the rhythm of effort and rest. Even the mind was not separate from this moving life. Attention, memory, orientation, and decision-making were often tied to where the body was, what it heard, what it saw, and how far it still needed to go. In modern life, movement has not disappeared, but it has been narrowed. A person may move the fingers all day while the legs remain quiet. The eyes may scan a glowing surface while the shoulders hold the same position. The brain may work intensely while the body is almost still. Work can now exhaust attention without asking much from the hips, feet, back, lungs, or arms. This is a new kind of fatigue. It feels real because it is real, but it is not the same fatigue the body was built to understand. The mind may be tired, while the muscles have been underused. The nervous system may be stimulated, while the joints have barely changed position. The eyes may be strained, while the legs have not carried the person anywhere meaningful. The result is a strange mismatch between effort and movement. The body can feel worn out and unused at the same time. This is one reason sitting can become uncomfortable even when nothing dramatic has happened. Stillness may look like rest from the outside, but for a body shaped through motion, long sameness can become another kind of burden. The spine is asked to hold the head while attention leans forward. The hips remain folded, the shoulders round. The feet stop reading the ground. The breath may become shallow without anyone noticing. Small muscles hold tension not because the person is lifting something heavy, but because the body is maintaining a fixed shape for too long. Over time, this can make the body feel older than the day itself. Again, this is not a moral failure, and it is not a claim that one posture explains every pain. Human discomfort has many causes, but the deep beginning matters. The body did not emerge from a world where stillness under mental pressure was the main pattern of life. It emerged from a world where thought and movement often belonged together. To walk was not only to travel, it was to sense distance, temperature, terrain, direction, and company. To carry was not only to use muscle. It was to belong to a task shared by the group. To bend, reach, rise, and turn was not only physical motion. It was how the body stayed in conversation with the world. Modern stillness breaks part of that conversation. It asks an ancient moving organism to become a quiet container for thought, worry, and attention. And when the body answers with stiffness, restlessness, or fatigue, it may be reminding us that its oldest language was never words. It was movement. Modern stillness is not the same as rest. Rest allows the body to release effort, change state, and recover. Stillness can do the opposite, when it holds the body in one narrow shape while the mind remains active. A person sitting at a desk may appear calm, but the body is not necessarily at ease. The eyes keep working, the jaw may tighten, the breath may become smaller, the shoulders may rise without permission, the lower back may bear a quiet load, the hips stay folded, the feet, once made to sense and adjust to the ground, wait beneath the chair with almost nothing to do. Hours can pass in this condition, and the body may feel as if it has been used heavily, even though it has barely moved. This is one of the more confusing experiences of modern life. Fatigue without motion, soreness without labour, stiffness without a journey. It feels strange because the body's older design links effort with movement more closely than many modern routines do. In the deep beginning of human life, attention was often embodied. To look meant to turn towards something in space. To remember a path meant to have moved through it. To solve a practical problem often meant reaching, lifting, carrying, shaping, walking, or working with others. The mind did not float above the body as an independent worker. It travelled with the body through weather, distance, and terrain. Today, the mind can travel through messages, images, numbers, and worries, while the body remains almost fixed. The nervous system receives a great amount of signal, but the muscles and joints receive little variation. This creates a life in which the brain may be running while the body is parked. Over time, the body begins to speak through discomfort, not because it is weak, but because it is being asked to perform a historically unusual task, to remain still while staying highly alert. A chair is useful. It protects the legs from constant load. It allows writing, reading, eating, and work. But the chair also changes the relationship between the body and gravity. The seat takes over some of the work that muscles and balance once performed. The spine must organize itself around a fixed surface. The hips remain bent. The knees and ankles stop changing angles. The head often drifts forward toward a screen. None of these positions are automatically harmful in a brief moment. The problem is duration and repetition. The body tolerates many shapes when they change. It complains more when one shape becomes the day. The older human body was not formed around one perfect posture. It was formed around variety. Standing, walking, crouching, reaching, lying down, carrying, turning, and adjusting. Modern life often reduces that variety to a few repeated positions. The result is not only physical, stillness also changes the way a person feels time. When the body moves through a landscape, time is marked by distance, light, effort, contact, and return. When the body sits while the mind works, time can become flat and crowded at once. A person may finish many tasks and still feel as if the body has not participated in the day. This matters because the body is not merely a tool for carrying the head. It is part of how human beings feel present in the world. Muscles, joints, skin, breath, and balance help create the sense of being located somewhere. When these systems are underused, the mind may become busy without feeling grounded. This is not a mystical claim. It is a simple biological observation. Human beings are organisms with nervous systems spread through the whole body, not only through conscious thought. The beginning of our story was not a life of abstract attention alone. It was a life in which sensing, moving, and thinking often work together. Modern stillness separates them. It asks the eyes and brain to carry much of the day, while the legs, back, lungs, and feet wait in reserve. Then, when the day ends, the body may not settle easily. It has been inactive, but not restored. It has been safe, but not calm. It has been spared effort, but denied rhythm. This is why pain, stiffness, and weakness should not be reduced to age alone. Age matters, of course. Tissue changes over time, recovery can slow, and old injuries may leave traces. But modern stillness adds another layer. It can make a body feel older by giving it too little of the movement that helps it remain organized. The discomfort is not a dramatic message. It is quieter than that. It says that a moving animal has spent too long pretending to be furniture. It says that the long past of the body still expects change, even in a room designed to remove it. Pain, stiffness, and weakness often get placed under one simple word: age. The word is not wrong, but it is not enough. Age changes the body, and no honest description should deny that. Muscles can lose strength when they are not used. Tendons and joints can become less forgiving. Recovery can feel slower. Old injuries may speak again, after years of silence. But when a body begins to ache, tighten, or feel weaker in modern life, age is only one layer of the story. Another layer is the way the body has been used, or not used, across ordinary days. A person does not need to carry stones, walk for miles, or sleep on cold ground to feel the cost of a mismatch. Sometimes the cost appears in a small room, under soft light, after many hours of sitting, thinking, watching, typing, and waiting. The body is not being attacked. It is being narrowed. It is asked to repeat a few shapes while forgetting many others. It is asked to keep attention alive while movement remains low. It is asked to carry stress through muscles that are not given the old release of walking, reaching, lifting, breathing hard, and changing position. This is why discomfort can appear even in a life that looks physically easy. The ease is real, but it is incomplete. It protects the body from many burdens while creating another burden. Too little variation for an organism that was shaped by variation. The beginning of human life was not built around fitness in the modern sense. It was built around necessity. Movement was not performed to improve the body. It was part of being alive. The body bent because something needed to be picked up. It walked because a place needed to be reached. It carried because a child, a tool, food, water, wood, or material mattered to the group. It rose from the ground because rest was not always arranged at chair height. It turned its head because sound and movement in the environment carried meaning. In that older context, strength was not only muscle size, it was coordination, balance, endurance, grip, posture, timing, and the ability to keep responding to a world that did not hold still. Modern life often reduces these many forms of strength into a smaller set of demands. A person may use the eyes, fingers, and voice constantly, while the larger body waits. Over time, the unused parts do not remain unchanged. Living tissue adapts downward as well as upward. Muscles that are rarely challenged can become less prepared. Joints that rarely move through range can feel less open. Balance that is rarely tested can become less confident. Breathing that remains shallow through stress can make the body feel tense, even after the danger has passed. None of this means a person has failed. It means the body is responsive. It changes according to the life it is given. That responsiveness is ancient. It is the same general principle that allowed human bodies to survive different climates, different landscapes, and different forms of work. The problem is that a body capable of adapting can also adapt to limitation. It can become skilled at sitting and poor at rising, skilled at tension and poor at release, skilled at short attention and poor at deep rest, skilled at holding the head forward and poor at opening the chest. These are not insults. They are consequences. The body learns the shape of the day. If the day is narrow, the body may become narrow with it. This is why the feeling of something wrong cannot be separated from the long road behind us. The modern ache is not a direct copy of prehistoric hardship, and it should not be treated that way. It is something stranger, an ancient moving body, living inside routines that remove many reasons to move. The past did not give us perfect bodies. It gave us bodies that expected use, bodies that needed signals from ground, distance, light, effort, and rest. Bodies that became strong through relationship with the world, not through comfort alone. So when the back tightens, when the legs feel heavy, when the shoulders harden, when getting up from a chair feels older than the person expected, the question is not only what is wrong today. The quieter question is what kind of history the body is still trying to complete. It may be asking for the missing half of modern safety. Not more pressure, not punishment, not a return to hardship, but the restoration of a language older than speech. The body was taught by movement long before it was taught by words, and it still remembers what it has not been allowed to do. Energy is one of the oldest problems a body has ever had to solve. Long before modern meals, packaged food, delivery, refrigeration, and regular schedules, every living body had to manage a simple but unforgiving truth. Life requires fuel, and fuel is not always guaranteed. Human beings were no exception. The body could not know with certainty when food would be found, how much effort would be needed, how cold the night might become, how far the group might travel, or whether illness, injury, weather, or conflict would make the next days harder. Because of this, the human body became deeply concerned with energy. It learned to seek it, save it, store it, and spend it carefully. This concern did not begin as a flaw. It was part of survival. A body that wasted too much energy in an uncertain world could be placed at risk. A body that ignored food when it was available might not have enough for a harder time ahead. A body that could store energy had a kind of protection. These are broad biological principles, not exact stories about any single ancient person. No one can describe every meal or every hunger from the deep past with certainty, but it is widely accepted that human bodies, like other animal bodies, evolved under conditions where food required effort and where availability could change. That older reality still matters, because the modern body did not stop caring about energy simply because the cupboard became full. Appetite, fatigue, craving, and the desire to rest are all tied to ancient systems of regulation. They are not only matters of willpower, they are ways the body tries to keep itself alive. The difficulty is that modern life has changed the energy landscape faster than the body has changed its basic rules. Food can now be close, soft, sweet, salty, rich, varied, and easy to eat. It can be eaten without walking far, without waiting for season, without sharing the labor that brought it into existence. At the same time, many daily tasks require less physical effort than before. A person can obtain food, work, communicate, travel, and be entertained while spending very little bodily energy. This creates a strange situation. The body still carries an old respect for calories, but the world offers calories in a form and frequency that older systems did not have time to expect. The body still favors saving effort, but modern routines can turn energy saving into long inactivity. The body still treats hunger as important information, but that information now appears in a world filled with cues, smells, images, habits, stress, boredom, and emotional signals that can pull appetite away from simple need. This is why hunger can feel mysterious. Sometimes it rises when the stomach is not truly empty. Sometimes it returns, after a meal that should have been enough. Sometimes it appears as a desire for something specific, often something dense, comforting, and easy to consume. This does not mean the body is foolish. It means appetite is not a small switch. It is part of a wide network involving the digestive system, hormones, the brain, memory, emotion, sleep, stress, and the senses. In older human conditions, this network helped a person respond to real uncertainty. In modern conditions, the same network can be surrounded by constant invitations. The body that once listened for scarcity now lives in abundance, but abundance does not automatically quiet the ancient alarm. In some cases, it makes the signal louder because the body is repeatedly reminded that energy is available. The beginning of this problem lies far back in the nature of life itself. To be alive is to manage energy. To be human is to manage energy with a large brain. Social needs, movement, temperature control, pregnancy, childhood, work, healing, and memory all making demands at once. The body does not spend energy casually, it negotiates. It asks whether to move or rest, eat or wait, store or burn, wake or sleep, prepare or relax. Modern life often scrambles these negotiations. A person may be mentally exhausted, but physically inactive. They may be stressed without moving. They may be tired from poor sleep and then feel hungrier the next day. They may sit for hours and still feel drained, because the nervous system has been active even if the muscles have not. The body reads all of this through old pathways. It may answer by asking for food, asking for rest, slowing movement, or holding on to energy. These responses can become frustrating, but they are not meaningless. They come from a body built under the long shadow of uncertainty. The modern person may look at a craving and see weakness. The older body may see opportunity, safety, or preparation. Between those two interpretations, the discomfort begins. Modern food does not only feed the body, it speaks to it. It speaks through sweetness, salt, fat, softness, smell, color, memory, and ease. It appears in kitchens, stores, streets, screens, celebrations, quiet evenings, and moments of stress. For a body shaped in a much older world, this constant speaking can be difficult to ignore. Appetite did not evolve as a polite suggestion. It evolved as an important signal in a living organism that could not afford to be careless with fuel. Hunger, pleasure, fullness, and craving are connected to survival systems that are older than modern choice. In earlier human conditions, food was tied to place, season, effort, skill, social sharing, and uncertainty. A person could not always eat the same thing at the same time with the same ease. Food had to be found, gathered, hunted, prepared, carried, protected, divided, or saved. We should not imagine this as one simple pattern, Because human groups lived in many different environments and used many different strategies. But the broad point remains: for most of the human story, food was not a constant background presence. It was a real event in the life of the body. Today, that relationship has changed. Food can arrive without distance. It can be highly concentrated, quickly eaten, and designed to be appealing beyond ordinary need. The body still uses old systems to judge it, but the signals have become unusually strong. Sweetness once pointed toward energy in fruits, roots, honey, or other natural sources that were not always available in the same way. Fat carried dense energy, useful for a body that needed reserves. Salt mattered because minerals are necessary for bodily function. Softness made food easier to chew and swallow. Variety encouraged eating enough from different sources. These preferences are not strange when seen from the long beginning of human life. They become difficult when modern food gathers many of these signals together, makes them cheap, frequent, and easy, then places them in front of a body that still treats them as meaningful. This is why the modern stomach and the modern mind can disagree. The stomach may have received enough, but the senses are still being invited. The person may understand that they are not in danger of starvation, but the deeper appetite system may respond to taste, stress, habit, tiredness, and memory as if more energy is still worth taking. Fullness itself is not always immediate or simple. It depends on volume, nutrients, hormones, digestion, attention, speed of eating, sleep, and emotional state. A meal eaten quickly while distracted may not feel the same as a meal eaten slowly in a calmer setting. A tired body may ask for quick energy. A stressed nervous system may look for comfort in food because eating can briefly feel like safety, warmth, and reward. None of this means the body is making a clear statement that more food is needed. It means appetite is woven into many systems at once. The body is not a calculator. It is a history. And modern food often enters that history with a louder voice than older foods could have had. The beginning of this trouble lies in the mismatch between scarcity-shaped attention and abundance-shaped surroundings. The body's energy system is cautious because life itself is costly. The brain uses energy. Muscles use energy. Warmth uses energy. Repair uses energy. Immune defense uses energy. Reproduction and childhood use energy. Even worry and wakefulness are not free. In an uncertain world, it made sense for the body to value available fuel. But in a modern world of repeated cues, the same value can become a source of confusion. The body may store more than the person intends. It may ask for food when the deeper need is sleep, movement, calm, or social comfort. It may confuse emotional pressure with bodily need because, in the nervous system, these states are not sealed away from one another. A message, a memory, a deadline, or a lonely room can change appetite through stress pathways that are very real, even if no physical danger is present. This is not an excuse for every habit, and it is not health advice. It is a way of reading the body without contempt. The modern person lives among foods that are more available and more stimulating than the body's older rules were built to handle. So when hunger feels too soon, when fullness feels incomplete, when craving speaks louder than reason, the body may be showing an ancient respect for energy inside a world that has learned how to press that respect again and again. What feels like a weakness in the present may be the shadow of an old survival logic, still working but no longer surrounded by the world that once made it wise. Even in a full world, the body can behave as if shortage is possible. This is not because the body is confused in a childish way. It is because the body belongs to a long biological story in which certainty was never guaranteed. Food might be plentiful for a while, then harder to find. Weather could change. Illness could reduce strength. Injury could limit movement. A group could move through a landscape where one place provided more than another. Later, with farming and settlement, food storage improved, but uncertainty did not vanish. Harvests could fail. Work could become repetitive and demanding. Disease could spread more easily where people and animals lived close together. Across many human worlds, the need to manage energy remained serious. The body learned to treat fuel not only as pleasure, but as protection. That old protection still lives beneath modern habits. It appears when tiredness makes a person want quick food. It appears when stress makes eating feel calming. It appears when the body resists spending energy after long periods of low movement. It appears when a person plans to be moderate, then finds that appetite has its own momentum. The mind may know the kitchen is nearby, the store will open tomorrow, and dinner will come again. But the body is not built only from modern knowledge. It is built from older rules, and one of those rules says that available energy matters. The difficulty is that modern life gives this ancient rule fewer natural limits. In older conditions, eating often had boundaries made by effort, season, distance, preparation, and sharing. The body might want more, but more was not always present. Today, the desire for energy can meet a world that is ready to answer immediately. The old signal meets a new supply. At the same time, daily energy use may be lower than the body's history prepared for. This does not mean every person lives the same way or that modern work is easy. Mental work, care work, emotional strain, and social pressure can be exhausting. But many modern routines separate exhaustion from physical expenditure. A person can feel drained after a day in which the large muscles were barely used. The nervous system has spent energy in vigilance, attention, decisions, and worry, while the body has not moved enough to create the older rhythm of effort and recovery. In that state, the body may ask for food because food is one of its oldest answers to strain. It may ask for rest because rest is one of its oldest ways to conserve. It may hold tension because uncertainty has not been resolved by action. This is why the phrase "something is wrong" can feel true and misleading at the same time. The body is not wrong to care about fuel. It is not wrong to prefer safety. It is not wrong to remember, through inherited systems, that shortage can matter. What feels wrong is the setting in which these systems now operate. A person may be surrounded by food yet still feel insecure in the body. They may have enough calories yet lack deep rest. They may be protected from cold yet feel worn down by constant stimulation. They may eat more than they need while still missing movement, daylight, quiet, and social steadiness. The body keeps asking for energy because energy is the language it understands most directly. But the modern problem is often not only energy, it is the shape of life around energy. The beginning of this pattern reaches back to the earliest demands of being alive. A living body must spend carefully. It must repair damage, maintain warmth, support the brain, move through the world, and survive periods when conditions become less favorable. Human beings added another layer: long childhood, cooperation, memory, tool use, learning, and social dependence. All of this made the management of energy even more important, so the body became cautious. It did not evolve to assume permanent abundance. It did not evolve to ignore easy food. It did not evolve to spend freely when rest was available. These tendencies can become troubling in a world of constant supply, but they began as reasonable answers to life's uncertainty. To see this clearly is not to excuse every modern habit, and it is not to give medical advice. It is to remove some of the shame from the body's signals. Hunger, craving, fatigue, and the wish to conserve are not random enemies. They are old messages, shaped in a world where tomorrow could not be taken for granted. The modern task is not to hate those messages, but to understand why they arrive so strongly in a world that has changed around them. The body still reacts as if lack may return, because for most of life's history, lack was never impossible. Sleep is often imagined as a perfect surrender. A quiet room, a soft bed, a closed door, a mind that lets go all at once. When that does not happen, the failure can feel personal. A person may lie in darkness and wonder why the body refuses what it clearly needs. The room is safe, the night is calm, the work is finished. Still, the mind turns, the ears seem too alert. The body shifts, warms, cools, wakes, and returns only slowly toward rest. But sleep was not shaped in a world that promised perfect quiet. For most of the human story, sleep was a vulnerable state inside a living environment. Darkness did not simply mean privacy. It meant reduced vision. Night did not always mean silence. It could carry wind, insects, animals, rain, voices, movement, cold, heat, and the small sounds of other people nearby. The sleeping body could not fully abandon awareness, because a body that slept too deeply at the wrong time might miss something important. This does not mean early humans never slept well, or that every night was full of fear. That would be another false picture. Human beings have always needed sleep, and the body has powerful systems for entering it, but sleep evolved with awareness nearby. It was not built as a complete escape from the world. It was built as a state of restoration that still allowed some contact with surrounding conditions. The modern sleeper carries that older arrangement into a very different room. A mattress supports the body. Walls reduce weather. Doors reduce danger. Blankets hold warmth. Devices measure time. Yet the nervous system still belongs to a species that slept before these protections were ordinary. This is why small disturbances can feel larger at night. A sound that would be ignored during the day may become meaningful in darkness. A worry that seemed manageable in daylight may grow sharper when the body is still. A change in temperature may pull the sleeper upward from rest. A memory, a message, or an unfinished concern may behave like a signal that needs attention. The body is not choosing this in a simple way. It is following ancient priorities. During sleep, the brain does not shut down. It changes its activity. It sorts, repairs, regulates, and protects. Some parts become less responsive, while other systems continue to watch for what might matter. In older environments, this balance made sense. Sleep had to restore the body without making it completely blind to the world. Cold is one example. A cold night is not only uncomfortable. For a mammal, temperature affects energy, circulation, muscle tone, and the depth of rest. Human beings learn to use fire, shelter, clothing, bedding, and social closeness in many different ways. But before stable indoor heating, the body still had to answer temperature more directly. Too much cold could pull the body toward wakefulness. Too much heat could do the same. Noise is another example. The human ear remains open during sleep, and the brain can respond to sounds even when consciousness is reduced. This does not mean every sound is danger. It means sleep was shaped as a guarded state, not a sealed one. In the deep beginning of human life, a sleeping person was still part of a group, a place, a weather pattern, and a night full of information. Modern sleep problems are not simply copies of ancient nights. They also come from modern causes: artificial light, irregular schedules, stress, illness, pain, work demands, and many other forces. But the ancient layer helps explain why sleep can remain fragile even when comfort increases. The bed can be soft, and still the nervous system may not feel released. The house can be quiet, and still the mind may listen. The night can be safe, and still the body may keep a small door open to the world. This is not proof that something is broken. It may be evidence that sleep was never meant to be perfect in the way modern people sometimes expect. It was meant to be good enough to restore a living body, while leaving that body connected to the edge of darkness. Long before sleep became a private performance in a closed room, it was a careful negotiation with cold, sound, company, memory, and the uncertain shape of night. The sleeping body is not a stone. It does not become silent just because the eyes are closed. It continues to measure the room, the breath, the temperature, the pressure of the bed, the sounds beyond the wall, and the unfinished signals carried from the day. This is why a person can be tired and still wake easily. The body may need sleep, yet some deeper system may continue to ask whether it is safe enough to let go. In daylight, this can seem unreasonable. The door is locked, the house is still, the bed is soft. The mind knows that no ancient danger is waiting outside, but the body does not rest only on logical knowledge. It rests through layers of older regulation, many of which were shaped long before modern rooms existed. Sleep has always required trust, and trust is not created by comfort alone. It is created when the nervous system receives enough signals of safety, rhythm, and release. When those signals are weak or mixed, sleep may become shallow, delayed, or easily broken. A small sound can pull the mind upward. A thought can become brighter than it was during the day. A slight change in warmth can make the body turn. A racing memory can wake the heart before the person has fully understood what is happening. These reactions are frustrating, but they are not meaningless. They show that sleep is not simply the absence of activity. It is an active biological state, guarded by systems that decide, moment by moment, how deeply the body can descend. In the long beginning of human life, sleep was connected to the surrounding world. The body had to rest, but it also had to remain responsive enough to protect itself and remain within the life of the group. A sleeper might hear the movement of others. The body might respond to cold air, smoke, insects, animal sounds, weather, or the need to care for a child. Again, this should not be turned into a dramatic picture of constant terror. Human beings could sleep, and they had to sleep, but they did not sleep as sealed objects inside climate-controlled boxes. Their rest was more exposed to place. Modern life removes many of the old dangers, but it adds new kinds of disturbance. Artificial light can keep the brain receiving signals of wakefulness after the natural day has ended. Work and worry can follow a person into bed without needing a physical presence. Messages can bring social tension into the quietest room. Noise may be less dangerous than it once was, but it can still interrupt the brain's descent into sleep. A screen may not be a predator, but it can still carry brightness, novelty, emotion, and expectation. The nervous system receives these as real events. It does not always separate ancient threat from modern stimulation as cleanly as the conscious mind does. This helps explain why sleep can be so easily disturbed in a safe life. The body may be protected from weather, but exposed to information, protected from animals, but exposed to worry, protected from hunger, but exposed to irregular rhythms. Protected from darkness, but also deprived of it. The old sleep system receives a new environment full of contradictory messages. Be tired, but remain reachable. Lie still, but keep thinking. Enter night, but stay under light. Feel safe, but remember every unfinished demand. Under these conditions, waking in the night is not always a sign of failure. It may be the body checking the world, as sleeping bodies have long done. Turning over is not always a problem. It may be the body searching for temperature, pressure, or ease. A restless mind is not always evidence that the person is broken. It may be a mind carrying unresolved signals into the one place where there is finally enough quiet to hear them. The beginning of this fragility lies far back in the nature of sleep itself. Sleep had to restore the body without making it helpless. It had to quiet the mind without erasing responsiveness. It had to rebuild energy while still respecting the fact that night was part of the living world. Modern bedrooms promise a kind of total rest that biology does not always deliver. The body can lie on a soft mattress and still sleep like an ancient listener, half trusting the darkness, half measuring what remains outside awareness. This is why the modern problem is not only that sleep has been damaged, it is that we sometimes expect sleep to become smoother than the body's history allowed. Beneath the pillow, beneath the blanket, beneath the locked door, the old sleeper is still there, waiting for the world to grow quiet enough to believe it. Modern sleep is not completely broken. It is more accurate and more honest to say that modern sleep is often displaced. It happens in rooms that protect the body from many ancient pressures, but it also happens inside routines that confuse some of the body's oldest signals. A person may have a better bed than almost anyone in the deep human past, yet still carry a nervous system that has been exposed all day to light, sound, worry, speed, and social information. The bedroom may be quiet, but the day has not fully ended inside the body. The muscles may be still, but the mind has been moving through tasks, messages, decisions, and concerns that did not require walking away from danger, returning to camp, or watching the light fade. In older human conditions, night was not always easy, but it had clearer boundaries. The sky changed, the air changed, work changed, the group settled in some way. Fire, shelter, bedding, and social closeness varied across cultures and periods, but the body still received stronger signs that one state of the day was ending and another was beginning. Modern life can blur that border. Light follows us indoors. Work follows us through devices. Voices arrive without bodies. Problems arrive without place. Food can come late. Entertainment can continue without darkness. The clock says night, but the nervous system may still be living in the unfinished afternoon. This is why sleep can feel out of context. The body is asked to fall into an ancient state after a very modern day. It is asked to release while still stimulated, to recover while still processing, to become quiet after hours of artificial signal. The bed becomes soft ground beneath an alert animal. The room becomes safe shelter around a mind that has not been given the older cues of closure. This does not mean every sleepless night has one cause. Sleep is affected by health, pain, work, age, stress, family life, light, noise, temperature, and many personal conditions. It would be false to reduce it to one evolutionary explanation, but the long beginning of sleep helps us understand why comfort alone does not guarantee rest. A mattress can support the spine, but it cannot automatically calm the nervous system. A blanket can hold warmth, but it cannot erase worry. A locked door can reduce danger, but it cannot teach the body that every signal has ended. The modern person often treats sleep as a task to perform. Lie down, close the eyes, become unconscious, wake refreshed. But the body treats sleep as a state it must enter through trust, rhythm, temperature, darkness, and release. When these gates are disturbed, sleep may still come, but it may come in pieces. It may arrive late. It may wake too easily. It may feel lighter than expected. This older fragility is not necessarily a flaw. It is part of the design of a living organism that once had to rest while remaining connected to its surroundings. In the deep past, perfect unconsciousness would not always have been the best answer. Some awareness had value. A sound, a child's movement, a change in weather, or the behavior of others could matter. The sleeping body learned to descend without disappearing completely. That ancient compromise remains with us. The problem is that modern surroundings can keep pressing the compromise long after danger has been reduced. The body still listens, but now it may hear traffic, notifications, inner speech, electric hums, emotional memories, and tomorrow's demands. It still responds to light, but now light can be chosen at midnight. It still notices social uncertainty, but now social life can follow a person into bed as words on a screen. The old system has not failed. It has been given too many new reasons to remain half awake. So when sleep feels imperfect, the first truth may be gentler than blame. The body is not refusing peace out of stubbornness. It may be trying to sleep with an ancient method inside a modern environment that does not always respect the method. The beginning of human sleep was never separate from cold, sound, darkness, safety, and the presence of others. Modern sleep is safer in many ways, but it is not always better aligned. It rests on pillows and mattresses, yet it still belongs to a body that learned long ago to listen through the night. The nervous system is older than the stories we tell about it. Before human beings could explain fear, name anxiety, measure stress, or describe emotion in careful language, the body already had ways of noticing danger. It could quicken the breath, sharpen attention, tighten muscles, raise the heart's activity, and prepare the organism to respond. These reactions did not begin as mistakes. They belonged to life in a world where missing a real threat could be costly. A sound in the dark, a sudden movement at the edge of vision, an unfamiliar face, a change in the group, a storm, hunger, injury, or the loss of direction could matter. The body did not need perfect understanding before it reacted. It needed speed, caution, and sensitivity. This is why the modern nervous system can feel excessive. It often responds before the thinking mind has finished deciding whether anything is truly wrong. A message arrives and the chest tightens. A deadline approaches and the stomach changes. A social silence becomes heavy. A memory appears, and the body behaves as if something present has happened. The conscious mind may say, "This is not danger." The older body may answer, "Uncertainty is still information." That difference is one of the deepest sources of modern unease. The human body was shaped in environments where attention to risk had value and where safety was never a permanent background condition. This does not mean ancient people lived in constant panic. That would be too simple and too dramatic. Human groups also had care, skill, rest, play, cooperation, and knowledge of their surroundings. But their nervous systems, like ours, had to remain responsive to what could change. The world was not sealed. Weather shifted, food shifted, social relations shifted. Injury or disease could alter life quickly. Other animals and other human groups could create danger. A body that noticed patterns, remembered trouble, and reacted to warning signs had an advantage in many settings. The problem is that modern life often turns this old danger detection system towards signals that are abstract, delayed, symbolic, or continuous. The body can react to a bank notice, a medical appointment, a work evaluation, an unread message, or a family tension with some of the same physical tools once used for more immediate threats. The threat has changed form, but the body's language remains bodily. It speaks through pulse, breath, muscle, stomach, sleep, and attention. This is why worry can feel physical. It is not only an idea, it is an old preparation without a clear place to go. In the long beginning of human life, a threat often demanded action. Move away, come closer to others, stay quiet, watch, climb, run, hide, carry, defend, seek help, remember the path. Modern stress often demands stillness. Sit through the meeting, wait for the result. Read the message, keep working. Stay polite, continue as if nothing has happened. The nervous system prepares, but the body cannot complete the old cycle of response. The result can be tension that lingers. It may settle in the jaw, shoulders, chest, stomach, hands, or sleep. It may become a feeling of being ready for something that never arrives. This is not proof that the body is irrational. It is proof that the body is using ancient equipment in a newer kind of world. The beginning of this equipment lies far below modern thought. The brain and body evolved together as a system for survival, not as separate parts. The nerves carry information from the skin, organs, muscles, and senses. The brain interprets this information with memory and expectation. The body then changes its state. This loop is fast, practical, and often outside conscious control. In older environments, it helped human beings respond before careful reasoning could finish its work. In modern environments, the same loop can keep a person alert to risks that cannot be solved by immediate movement. A phone notification is not a predator, but it can still interrupt the nervous system. A difficult conversation is not a storm, but it can still change the breath. A future worry is not present in the room, but the body can still rehearse it as if preparation might help. This is how safety and unease can exist together. The room may be safe, but the nervous system is listening to more than the room. It listens to memory, expectation, social belonging, uncertainty, and imagined consequence. The body may not know that the modern world has replaced many direct dangers with invisible pressures. It only knows that something asks for attention, and so it remains awake, not because it is broken, but because it was shaped to notice before it was shaped to relax. A small amount of unease can make sense in a body built for survival. It keeps attention near the edges of life. It makes a person notice what has changed, who has become quiet, where a sound came from, whether the path feels familiar, whether the group is still together, whether the body is hungry, cold, injured, or exposed. In older human conditions, this sensitivity was not an illness by itself. It was part of being awake in a world that could change without warning. The nervous system did not wait for perfect proof before preparing the body. It used hints, a movement in the grass, a shift in weather, the absence of a familiar voice, the smell of smoke, the behavior of animals, the tension of another person's face. Human survival depended not only on strength but also on noticing. A body that never worried, never scanned, never prepared, and never learned from danger would not have been well matched to a world of uncertainty. This is why modern anxiety can feel so strange. It may use an ancient protective system, but it often points toward dangers that cannot be touched, run from, or solved with the whole body. A person can sit in a clean room, under steady light, with food nearby and no physical enemy present, yet the nervous system may still behave as if something important is unfinished. The chest may tighten before a difficult conversation. The stomach may turn before an email is opened. The shoulders may harden during a financial worry. The mind may replay a social moment long after it has ended. These experiences are not the same as facing a wild animal, hunger, storm, or injury. They should not be exaggerated into false drama. But the body does not respond only to the literal shape of a threat. It responds to uncertainty, possible rejection, loss of control, memory, anticipation, and the need to remain safe among others. For human beings, social life has always mattered deeply. To be separated, disliked, ignored, or pushed out of a group could carry real consequences in many human worlds. This does not mean every modern social worry is accurate. It means the body may treat belonging as a serious signal, because across the long beginning of our species, belonging was never a minor detail. In this way, mild stress and vigilance can be seen as old tools. They were useful when they helped a person prepare, pay attention, seek support, avoid danger, or remember what had gone wrong before. The problem appears when the tool does not turn off. Modern life can keep the nervous system surrounded by unfinished cues. There may be no predator, but there are deadlines. No visible enemy, but there is judgment. No cold night in the open, but there is a screen glowing past midnight. No immediate scarcity, but there are numbers, bills, comparisons, expectations, and plans. The body receives these signals through old pathways. It changes breathing, digestion, muscle tone, sleep, and attention. It prepares the person to respond, but often the response required is not movement. It is waiting. It is staying polite. It is reading more information. It is thinking again. The older alarm system remains active without completing its older purpose. Over time, this can make the body feel crowded from within. The person may not be in danger, yet the body may not feel free. The beginning of this pattern lies in a simple biological truth. Safety is not only the absence of threat, safety is also the presence of signals that tell the nervous system it can release. In older settings, some of those signals may have come from the group: the fire, the fading light, familiar ground, shared rest, repeated routines, and the completion of physical tasks. In modern life, many tasks do not feel complete in the body. Messages can always continue. Work can return tomorrow in the same form. Social judgment can exist without a face in the room. Worry can be carried without an obvious action to finish it. So the nervous system keeps listening. It may call this listening worry, tension, alertness, or stress. But underneath the modern names is an older function: protect the organism before it is too late. This does not make anxiety harmless, and it does not mean serious suffering should be ignored. It means the first layer of understanding can be gentler. The body is not always betraying the person. Sometimes it is protecting with methods shaped for a different world. The unease may be outdated in form, but not meaningless in origin. It is a survival signal that has outlived the landscape that once explained it. The modern world is safer in many ways, but the body does not always receive safety as a fact. It receives safety as a pattern of signals. A locked door helps. A warm room helps. A familiar voice helps. Darkness at the right time helps. Regular rest helps. A body that has moved, eaten enough, and completed the day's demands may understand safety more easily than a body that has sat still under pressure, taken in too much information, and carried unfinished concerns into the night. The conscious mind can look around and say, nothing is happening. The older nervous system may answer, something may still happen. That small difference explains much of the unease people feel in protected lives. The body is not reading the world from the same page as reason. It reads through breath, muscle, sound, memory, light, digestion, and social expectation. It reads not only what is present, but what might be coming. In the long beginning of human life, anticipation had value. A person who noticed early signs could prepare before danger became close. Weather might shift, a path might become unsafe, a relationship within the group might change, a child might need attention, food might become harder to find. The nervous system learned that waiting for certainty was not always wise. It became sensitive to possibility. In modern life, possibility has become enormous. There are too many futures to imagine, too many messages to interpret, too many comparisons to make, too many warnings from places far outside the room. The body still tries to prepare, but preparation no longer has a clear edge. It can continue all day. It can continue into sleep. It can continue even when nothing physical is moving toward the person. That is why the body may remain tense in a world that is, by many measures, less immediately dangerous than the worlds that shaped it. The danger is reduced, but the signal of danger has multiplied. News, work, money, health, reputation, family, age, loneliness, and memory can all become threats without shape. They do not stand in front of the body, but the body reacts as if shape is not required. A thought can quicken the pulse. A silence can tighten the throat. A future appointment can disturb the stomach. A regret can pull the mind into wakefulness. These reactions may seem misplaced, yet they come from systems that were never designed to separate physical risk from social and emotional risk with perfect accuracy. For a social animal, being accepted, protected, informed, and connected was never separate from survival. Human beings did not begin as isolated minds making private choices. They began as vulnerable bodies inside groups, landscapes, seasons, and shared tasks. The nervous system still carries that history. It listens for danger in the face, the voice, the pause, the absence of reply, the sign that belonging may be uncertain. A modern person may know that a delayed message is not a life-threatening event, but the body may still feel the old pressure of social uncertainty. It is not thinking in words, it is preparing in flesh. The world has become safer, but also more ambiguous. Many dangers are less visible, many pressures are delayed, many demands have no natural ending. In older conditions, some threats passed because the storm ended, the animal left, the group moved, the fire burned low, the path was completed, or the body returned from effort into rest. Modern stress may not pass in the same bodily way. A person can carry tomorrow while lying in bed tonight. The nervous system may never receive a clear signal that the matter is over. It keeps a small lamp burning inside the body. The beginning of that lamp is old. It was useful when night held real uncertainty, when group life required attention, when food and safety depended on noticing change. But in a modern room, the lamp can become too bright. It can keep the body alert after danger has become only a thought. This is the quiet problem. The body does not automatically know that the world has become safer in certain ways. It only knows the signals it is given. If those signals say, hurry, compare, answer, remember, prepare, and remain available, then the body may remain guarded. Not because it is foolish, not because it wants suffering, because it was shaped to protect first and relax later. The ancient nervous system still listens at the edge of modern comfort, waiting for proof that may never arrive. Pain is often treated as proof that something has gone wrong. In one sense, that is understandable. Pain interrupts the day. It pulls attention away from work, sleep, movement, and calm thought. It can make the body feel unreliable, as if one part has turned against the rest. But pain is not only damage speaking, it is also protection speaking. The body uses pain to mark a boundary, to slow movement, to guard tissue, to force attention towards something that may need care. This warning system is very old. Long before human beings had medical words, written explanations, or scientific instruments, living bodies needed ways to notice injury and avoid making it worse. A foot that stepped on something sharp had to withdraw. A burned hand had to pull back. A strained limb had to be used differently. Pain helped the body learn what to avoid, what to protect, and when to move with caution. In that older setting, pain was not an enemy in the simple sense. It was a messenger with urgency. The problem is that modern people often receive the message without understanding the language. A sore back after sitting may not look like injury. A stiff neck after a day of screen work may not feel connected to danger. Aching knees, tight hips, headaches, or jaw tension may appear in lives that contain no obvious physical struggle. The person may think, why does my body hurt when I have done so little? But the body does not judge strain only by dramatic effort. It also responds to repetition, stillness, pressure, poor recovery, emotional tension, age, old injuries, and the subtle way one part of the body changes the work of another. Pain may arise not because the body has failed, but because it is trying to prevent a small imbalance from becoming a larger one. This does not mean pain should be ignored, explained away, or treated as only psychological. Pain can signal real injury or illness, and persistent or severe pain deserves proper care. But in the broad story of the human body, pain begins as a protective system, not as a punishment. It belongs to the same ancient logic as hunger, fatigue, fear, and sleepiness. Each signal tries to guide behavior before the body is placed at greater risk. The beginning of this logic lies far back in life itself. A living organism must know when heat is too strong, when pressure is too great, when a joint is being pushed too far, when tissue needs rest, when an action should stop. Human beings inherited and refined this sensitivity. Our bodies became capable of long movement, skilled hands, upright walking, tool use, and social labor. But none of these abilities could continue without warning systems. The upright body, especially, carries many compromises. The head balances above the spine. The lower back helps transfer weight. The hips, knees, ankles, and feet cooperate through every step. The shoulders and hands perform delicate work while also carrying, lifting, and reaching. This arrangement gives human beings remarkable freedom, but it also requires constant coordination. When coordination is lost, reduced, or repeated too narrowly, discomfort can become the body's way of asking for correction. Modern life can make this warning system harder to read. The body may not be running from danger or carrying loads across rough land, yet it may be held for hours in a position that slowly irritates tissue. It may not be fighting, but the jaw may clench through stress. It may not be freezing, but the shoulders may rise as if bracing. It may not be injured today, but an old injury may change movement quietly for years. The nervous system remembers patterns. It can become protective even before obvious harm appears. In a world where much work is mental, symbolic, and seated, pain can become the old warning system speaking through new causes. This is why pain belongs directly to the question of what feels wrong with the body. It shows that the body is not a silent machine waiting to break. It is an active guardian, sometimes wise, sometimes too sensitive, sometimes difficult to interpret, but always rooted in the ancient need to keep the organism alive. Pain is not the whole truth of the body. It is a signal at the edge of action, asking the person to notice that the past still lives in the nerves, and that even comfort can create pressure when an old body is asked to hold a new shape for too long. The body does not always ask politely. When something needs attention, it often uses discomfort. Hunger interrupts thought. Fatigue slows desire. Fear sharpens the senses. Pain narrows the world around one place, one joint, one muscle, one nerve, one region that suddenly feels more important than everything else. This narrowing can be frustrating, but it has an old purpose. A body that could not force attention toward danger inside itself would be vulnerable. It might keep walking on an injured foot. It might keep using a strained hand. It might ignore heat, pressure, infection, swelling, or exhaustion until the damage became harder to survive. Pain, in this deeper sense, is a form of insistence. It says, stop here, look here, change something here. Long before human beings could explain tissue, nerves, inflammation, posture, or stress, the body already had this language. It did not need scientific words to protect itself. It needed a signal strong enough to change behavior. This is why pain can feel larger than the visible cause. A small injury can dominate the mind. A tight muscle can disturb sleep. A sore back can change the way a person sits, walks, breathes, and thinks. The body is not only reporting a fact, it is reorganizing attention and movement around a possible problem. In older human conditions, this could be useful. A person with a hurt ankle needed to move differently. Perhaps rely more on others, perhaps rest, perhaps avoid greater risk. A burn, cut, bite, strain, or fall could become serious if ignored. The body therefore learned to make certain messages difficult to dismiss. But in modern life, the same protective force can become confusing. Pain may appear without a clear wound. It may follow hours of stillness rather than one dramatic event. It may come from repeated small pressures, poor sleep, emotional tension, or the nervous system becoming more watchful than necessary. A person may search for a single cause and find none. This does not mean the pain is imaginary. Pain is always a real experience, but its meaning is not always simple. It is produced by the brain and body together, shaped by signals from tissue, memory, context, expectation, stress, and past injury. This makes pain both physical and interpretive. It belongs to the body, but the body is never only flesh in isolation. It is a whole history of sensation and response. The beginning of human life helps explain why the warning system is so powerful. Survival did not reward bodies that ignored danger until certainty arrived. It rewarded bodies that could react early enough to prevent worse harm. A painful sensation could protect a limb. Sensitivity could protect a wound. Guarding could reduce movement while healing began. Even tenderness after effort could remind the body to slow down. These responses were not designed to make modern life comfortable. They were designed to keep a vulnerable organism from crossing limits too far. In the present, however, the warning system can be triggered by conditions that are not immediately life-threatening but still matter to the body. Long sitting may not be a predator, but it can place steady demand on the back, hips, neck, and eyes. Repeated typing may not look like labor in the ancient sense, but it can ask small tissues to perform the same motion again and again. Stress may not strike the body from outside, but it can change muscle tone, sleep, digestion, and breathing. Poor rest may lower the threshold at which discomfort becomes noticeable. Social worry may tighten the jaw and shoulders without any conscious decision. The body then uses pain or discomfort to interrupt the pattern. It may not explain itself clearly. It may simply make continuation difficult. This is why pain can feel like betrayal when it may actually be protection taken to an uncomfortable degree. The body forces attention because attention is one of its oldest tools for survival. It cannot write a note. It cannot describe the full chain of causes. It cannot say, your shoulder is carrying stress from hours of stillness, shallow breathing, and unfinished worry. It can only tighten, ache, burn, throb, or resist. The modern person wants a clear sentence. The ancient body offers a signal. Between those two forms of communication, confusion grows. Yet if the signal is read with patience, it reveals something important about the title's question. Something may feel wrong with the body because the body is still using old protective methods in a world where the sources of strain are often slow, hidden, repetitive, and mixed with emotion. Pain asks for attention not because the body hates peace, but because the body was built in a long past where ignored signals could become dangerous. Even now, inside modern rooms, it still guards the boundary between use and harm. The warning system of pain is useful because it is sensitive. It can notice threat before the body is badly damaged. It can make a person protect a joint, change a movement, slow down, or rest before a small problem becomes larger. But sensitivity has a cost. A system built to protect can sometimes protect too much. It can become louder than the visible problem. It can remain active after the original danger has passed. It can learn from repeated strain, poor sleep, old injury, fear, stress, or long uncertainty, and then respond sooner the next time. This is one reason pain in modern life can feel so difficult to understand. The body may hurt in a place where nothing dramatic happened. The pain may move, fade, return, or grow stronger during worry and tiredness. It may appear after stillness, not after effort. It may become sharp when the person expects it, or quieter when attention is drawn elsewhere. None of this makes the pain false. It shows that pain is not a simple measurement of tissue damage. It is a protective experience created by the body and brain together, using signals from nerves, muscles, joints, organs, memory, emotion, and context. In the long beginning of human life, this kind of protection had value. A body that became cautious around an injured limb could avoid making the injury worse. A nervous system that remembered where pain occurred could help a person avoid repeating danger. A body that raised alarm early could preserve movement, strength, and survival. But modern conditions can stretch this system into situations where the danger is slow and unclear. The back may not be wounded by one event, but it may be asked to hold the same posture for hours. The neck may not be struck, but it may carry the head forward toward a screen day after day. The jaw may not be fighting, but it may clench through stress. The stomach may not be poisoned, but it may tighten under worry. The shoulders may not be lifting a heavy load, but they may rise as if bracing against an invisible pressure. The body reads these patterns with old tools. It does not always know the difference between a clear physical threat and a modern mixture of stillness, tension, repetition, and fatigue. It simply notices that something feels unsafe for continued use. Then it sends a signal strong enough to interrupt. This is where the modern person can feel betrayed. The body seems to overreact. It seems to punish ordinary life. It seems to make rest harder instead of easier. Yet the deeper truth may be quieter. The body is not trying to create suffering. It is trying to prevent harm with a system that was shaped before modern strain became so hidden. Earlier pressures were often more direct. A fall, a cut, a burn, a long walk, a heavy carry, a cold night, an infected wound, or a dangerous encounter gave the body clearer reasons to guard itself. Modern pressures often arrive as duration. Too many hours in one position. Too much light at night. Too little movement. Too much unresolved stress. Too little recovery. Too many repeated motions. Too much attention held inside the head while the rest of the body waits. The warning system responds, but because the cause is spread across time, the message can feel mysterious. Pain becomes a voice without a clear speaker. This is why the body can feel wrong even when nothing obvious has gone wrong. The old alarm is working, but it is working in a room, at a desk, in a bed, in a car, under a light, inside a routine that the body did not slowly evolve to read. A sensitive warning system helped human beings survive in older worlds. In the modern world, that same sensitivity can become difficult, not because it lost all purpose, but because the signals around it became less natural, less visible, and less complete. Pain still asks the same ancient question: is this safe to continue? The trouble is that modern life often gives the body no simple answer. Aging can feel like a sudden accusation, but it is rarely sudden. It arrives as a long accumulation of small changes, many of them too quiet to notice while they are happening. One day the stairs seem steeper, sleep feels lighter, the hands need more time in the morning. A familiar movement asks for more care. The back remembers yesterday. The eyes tire sooner. The body does not announce one single failure. It begins to reveal a history. This is why aging should not be understood only as decline, as if the body were simply losing an argument against time. It is also the visible surface of a deeper record. Years of movement and stillness, repair and strain, nourishment and scarcity, sleep and wakefulness, stress and recovery, injury and adaptation. The body ages like a history book because it keeps the consequences of repeated conditions. It does not remember in sentences, but in tissue, posture, sensitivity, strength, rhythm, and repair. A person may think of age as something that begins later in life, but the body has been aging from the beginning. Every day asks it to maintain itself. Cells are repaired, energy is used, proteins are built and broken down, the immune system watches, bones respond to load, muscles respond to use or disuse, the nervous system learns patterns, skin meets light, temperature, pressure, and time. None of this is dramatic in a single moment, but over many years, small influences become a shape. This is not a mysterious or shocking claim. It is a basic truth of living bodies. They are not permanent objects. They are processes that must keep rebuilding themselves while also carrying the marks of what they have passed through. The beginning of human life helps us understand why aging feels so personal and yet so ancient. Human beings evolved as organisms that had to survive long enough to grow, learn, cooperate, care for children, and live within groups. The body's systems were shaped to repair damage, resist infection, maintain energy, and keep functioning under changing conditions. But no living system repairs perfectly forever. Maintenance has limits. Trade-offs exist. Energy spent in one direction is not always available in another. Inflammation can protect, but if repeated or prolonged, it can also contribute to wear. Stress responses can help in danger, but if they remain active too often, they may leave a trace. Movement can strengthen tissue, but repeated strain without recovery can also mark it. Rest can restore, but poor sleep can make repair less complete. Aging is not one single enemy. It is many small histories meeting inside the same body. This is why two people of the same age may feel very different. Their bodies may carry different patterns of work, rest, illness, injury, food, stress, social support and movement. Genetics matters, but life also matters. Environment matters. Repetition matters. The same joint used in one way for years does not tell the same story as a joint used in another way. A body that has carried worry without enough release may not feel the same as one that has had more chances to recover. A person who has slept poorly for years may feel time differently in the muscles, mind, and energy. None of this should be turned into blame. Many conditions are not chosen. Work, poverty, caregiving, illness, place, and social pressure can shape the body without permission. The point is not to accuse the individual. The point is to see that aging is historical. It carries the world in which a person has lived. Modern life adds its own marks. Long sitting, artificial light, constant information, irregular rest, easy food, low movement, and emotional pressure can all become part of the body's record. They do not act like one dramatic injury. They act more like weather on stone, slow, repeated, ordinary, and therefore easy to underestimate. The body may appear to change suddenly, but often the suddenness belongs to our attention, not to the process itself. We notice when the signal becomes strong enough. The deeper change has been writing for years, and beneath those modern years lies an even older story. The body that ages today is still a body shaped by survival, repair, movement, energy management, and social dependence. It was never designed to remain untouched by time. It was designed to keep going under imperfect conditions. Aging is the cost of being a living record, a body that has met the world again and again, and has kept some trace of every meeting. The body does not age in an empty room. It ages in weather, work, sleep, food, worry, care, noise, light, injury, and repetition. It ages and weather the conditions that surround it every day, including conditions so ordinary that they almost disappear from attention. A person may notice age only when strength declines or recovery slows, but the body has been recording life long before that moment. It records the nights when sleep was too short. It records the years of carrying weight on one side. It records the long hours of sitting with the head forward. It records the repeated lifting, bending, reaching, typing, standing, waiting, and bracing. It records illness, healing, stress, hunger, fullness, warmth, cold, loneliness, touch, and the presence or absence of help. None of these marks the body in a simple, single way. They layer, they mix, they become posture, energy, pain, threshold, appetite, alertness, and the ease or difficulty of movement. This is why aging is not only a calendar. The calendar counts time, but the body counts exposure. It counts what had to be endured, what could be repaired, what was repeated too often, and what was missing for too long. In the deep beginning of human life, the body aged in direct contact with the environment. It met ground, climate, infection, injury, hunger, social dependence, and physical work without many of the protections that later human cultures created. Fire, shelter, tools, clothing, cooking, cooperation, and knowledge all changed that relationship. But the body still remained a living surface where the world left traces. Modern life has changed the kinds of traces, not the fact that traces remain. A person may no longer age mostly under open weather, but they may age under artificial light. They may no longer carry water from a distant place, but they may carry stress through the shoulders and they may no longer walk across uneven land each day, but they may spend years in chairs that reduce movement to a narrow pattern. They may not face hunger in the same way as earlier humans, yet they may live among foods that disturb the older signals of appetite and fullness. They may be safer from many dangers, yet more exposed to constant information, comparison, and pressure. The body receives all of this. It does not separate history into neat categories. It turns lived conditions into biological consequence. Labour is one example. Work can strengthen the body when it varies, allows recovery, and uses the whole organism in balanced ways. But work can also wear the body when it repeats the same motion, holds the same posture, demands attention without rest, or continues beyond recovery. This was true in older forms of labour, and it remains true in modern ones. A farmer, a craft worker, a caregiver, a factory worker, a driver, an office worker, and a person who stands all day may age through different patterns of strain. The body remembers not only effort, but the shape of effort. Sleep is another example. Sleep is not empty time. It is one of the body's major conditions for repair, regulation, memory, and energy balance. When sleep is repeatedly disturbed, the body may still continue, but it continues with a different record. Stress is another mark. A short stress response can help a person act, but long pressure without release can change the body's tone. Muscles may remain guarded, digestion may become unsettled, sleep may become lighter, the mind may become more watchful. These changes are not always visible from outside, but they are part of how time enters the body. The beginning of this pattern is ancient because every human body has always had to negotiate between demand and recovery. No body could spend without rebuilding. No body could remain alert without rest. No body could face injury without repair. Modern life often increases demand while disguising it as normal. It may not look brutal. It may look like messages, deadlines, chairs, screens, late light, quick meals, interrupted sleep, and the quiet habit of ignoring fatigue. Over years, such things can become part of aging. They do not mean the body is failing in a moral sense. They mean the body has been living. It has been absorbing the conditions around it, just as bodies always have. Age is not only what time does to us, it is what repeated life becomes inside us. Age is often described as loss, but the body tells a more layered story. It does lose some things. Strength may require more attention. Balance may ask for more care. Sleep may become lighter. Recovery may take longer. The skin changes. The joints may become less forgiving, and energy may not return as quickly after stress. These changes are real, and it would not be honest to deny them. But age is not only subtraction. It is also evidence. It shows that the body has lived through time and kept a record of that living. A face carries weather, expression, sunlight, worry, laughter, and rest. Hands carry work, touch, tools, care, and repetition. The back carries posture, burden, sitting, lifting, and old adjustments. The nervous system carries memories of safety and danger, even when they are not spoken aloud. The body becomes a kind of archive, not in words, but in tone, habit, sensitivity, and form. This is why aging can feel so intimate. It is not merely the passing of years. It is the return of everything the body has had to manage. The beginning of this truth lies far before modern life. Human bodies were never designed as permanent, unchanging objects. They were living systems that had to repair themselves while being used. They had to move, eat, sleep, heal, reproduce, learn, cooperate, endure weather, respond to injury, and adjust to uncertainty. Every one of those tasks left room for trade-offs. A strong stress response could help in danger, but too much repeated stress could mark the body. A sensitive pain system could protect tissue, but it could also become more reactive. A metabolism that conserved energy could help through shortage, but in abundance it could create difficulty. A social nervous system could help people belong, but it could also make rejection, loneliness, and judgment feel deeply physical. Aging reveals these trade-offs over time. It shows that the body is not wrong in a simple sense. It is carrying old solutions into changing conditions, and those solutions have costs. In modern life, those costs may appear in quieter ways than in the past. A person may not be worn down by walking across harsh terrain, but by decades of low movement. They may not be marked by cold nights outdoors, but by shallow sleep under artificial light. They may not carry heavy tools all day, but they may carry long worry in the jaw, neck, stomach, and chest. They may not face hunger often, but they may live with appetite signals surrounded by constant food. The body ages through whatever world it inhabits. The world has changed, but the principle has not. Life enters the body through repetition. This can help us think about age without contempt. The older body is not simply a weaker version of the younger body. It is a body with more history inside it. Some of that history may be painful. Some may be useful. Some may be unfair, shaped by work, illness, care, responsibilities, poverty, stress, or conditions the person did not choose. Some may be the ordinary cost of continuing. To call all of this decline is too narrow. Age shows what the body has survived, what it adapted to, what it protected, what it could not fully repair, and what it learned to expect. That is why the question of what feels wrong with the body cannot be separated from time. the discomfort of age may not begin only in the present moment. It may begin in years of sitting, years of worry, years of interrupted sleep, years of repeated motion, years of holding breath through pressure, years of ignoring small signals because life demanded continuation. Beneath those personal years lies the longer human story, a body shaped to survive, not to remain untouched. A body shaped to endure imperfect conditions, not to stay endlessly smooth. Modern culture often asks the body to look young, move young, recover quickly, and stay silent about its history. But the body does not obey that kind of forgetting. It speaks through stiffness, fatigue, caution, memory, and the changing pace of repair. Age is not only decay, it is history, becoming visible. It is the long past of the species meeting the shorter past of one life, and both of them asking to be read with patience. When human beings began to live more often in settled places, the body entered a new kind of world. This change did not happen everywhere at once, and it did not look the same in every region. Some groups continued hunting, gathering, herding, fishing, or moving with seasonal rhythms, while others slowly built lives around cultivated plants, stored food, animals, houses, fields, and villages. It would be false to describe this as one simple step from hardship into progress. It was more complicated than that. Settlement brought new strengths, but also new pressures. It allowed food to be stored, tools to become more specialized, children and elders to remain in more stable places, and knowledge to accumulate around land, seasons, seeds, animals, and work. But it also changed the relationship between the body and daily life. The body that had been shaped through varied movement, changing foods, shifting landscapes, and smaller social settings, increasingly found itself in more repeated routines. Fields needed attention. Grain needed processing. Animals needed care. Houses needed repair. Water, fuel, storage, cooking, and defense could become regular demands. The body was no longer always following the landscape in the same way. In many places, it began to return again and again to the same ground, the same tasks, the same tools, the same postures, and the same local risks. This mattered because the human body is sensitive not only to how much work it does, but to the pattern of that work. A day of varied movement does not mark the body in the same way as a day of repeated bending, grinding, lifting, carrying, kneeling, digging, or standing. Repetition can make skill, but it can also make strain. Settlement did not invent strain, of course. Earlier, human life could be physically difficult, dangerous, and uncertain, but settled life could concentrate certain demands. It could make labor more regular and more specialized. It could tie survival to stored crops, seasonal success, and the condition of a local environment. It could make people depend more heavily on fewer food sources in some places. It could place humans, waste, stored food, and animals closer together, changing the conditions in which disease could move. The body that entered settlement was still the old body, alert to hunger, careful with energy, responsive to pain, dependent on social belonging, and shaped for movement. But the world around that body was beginning to organize itself differently. The beginning of this change helps explain why the feeling of something being wrong cannot be blamed only on the very recent modern world. Some of the mismatch may have deep roots in the long transition from mobile lives to more settled ones. When people stay in one place, the body gains certain protections, but it also meets new pressures. A wall can protect from wind, but a crowded settlement can bring new exposures. Stored food can reduce immediate uncertainty, but it can also make people vulnerable to failure in another way if harvests are poor or supplies are lost. A field can feed a community, but it can ask bodies to repeat the same work across long periods. A village can strengthen cooperation, but it can also intensify social tension, hierarchy, obligation, and disease. These are not reasons to romanticize life before farming. They are reminders that every human arrangement solves some problems while creating others. The body moves through these arrangements and pays attention in its own language. Bones, teeth, joints, muscles, immune systems, and patterns of growth can carry traces of diet, labor, illness, and stress. Archaeologists and biological anthropologists study such traces carefully, not to tell a perfect story, but to understand broad changes in human life. The body after settlement was not suddenly wrong. It was still adapting, still enduring, still finding ways to live. But it was now living inside a new rhythm, one where place, property, storage, population, animals, and repeated labor could shape the body day after day. Long before the office chair, the glowing screen, and the quiet bedroom, human beings had already begun changing the conditions around their bodies faster than the bodies themselves could fully become something else. The old animal of movement, hunger, sleep, pain, and vigilance had entered the village, and with it came the beginning of another layer of unease. Settlement changed food, but it also changed the world around food. A stored harvest could protect a community from immediate hunger, yet it could also make life depend heavily on a narrow set of crops, local weather, pests, storage, and repeated labor. A house could shelter the body, yet houses gathered people, smoke, waste, tools, animals, and food into closer spaces. A village could create belonging and cooperation, yet it could also increase exposure to conflict, hierarchy, obligation, and illness. These changes did not happen in one place or one century, and they did not affect every human group in the same way. Some people continued to live by hunting, gathering, fishing, herding, trading, or moving with seasons. Others combined older and newer strategies, but wherever settlement deepened, the body entered a different pressure field. It was still the same human body, with old systems for hunger, movement, pain, sleep, social belonging, and danger. But now those systems met a life, organized around fields, houses, stored food, animals, and larger communities. Food became more reliable in some ways and more risky in others. A crop that could feed many people could also fail. Stored grain could support a settlement, but it could also attract pests, require protection, and demand grinding, cooking, carrying, and guarding. A diet built more heavily around certain staples could provide energy, but it might not always offer the same variety as older mixed food sources. This does not mean every farming life was poor or unhealthy. Human societies were inventive, and many people developed rich food traditions, storage methods, cooking practices, and seasonal knowledge. But the body was now living under new trade-offs. Energy could be concentrated, yet work could become repetitive. Food could be stored, yet people could become more tied to the success of one landscape. Population could grow, yet more people living near one another could make disease easier to spread. Animals could provide food, labor, materials, and wealth, yet closeness with animals could also change the microbial environment around human bodies. These pressures matter because the body does not experience history as an idea. It experiences history as load, infection, nutrition, posture, recovery, and stress. Repeated grinding can mark hands, shoulders, necks, and backs. Repeated digging can mark joints. Carrying water, fuel, children, crops, and tools can shape muscle and bone. Smoke from indoor fires can affect breathing. Crowded living can affect exposure to illness. Stored food and shared spaces can change the conditions under which pests and pathogens move. Social structure can decide who works hardest, who eats first, who rests least, and who carries the heaviest burdens. The beginning of settled life, therefore, added new layers to the ancient question of why the body feels strained. The strain was not only from wild nature anymore, it was also from human-made environments. Fields, houses, storage, ownership, schedules, and dense communities were not outside biology. They became part of biology's surroundings. A body that once adapted to weather, terrain, and uncertain food now also had to adapt to repeating tasks, local crowding, accumulated waste, social rank, and closer relationships with domestic animals. This is one reason the modern feeling of bodily unease has a long middle history. It did not leap straight from open landscapes to office chairs. Between those worlds came villages, farms, towns, workshops, roads, markets, and households full of labor. The body learned to endure them, but endurance is not the same as perfect fit. Some new conditions solved old problems while quietly creating others. The same storage that reduced hunger could support larger populations, and larger populations could increase disease exposure. The same settlement that offered shelter could increase smoke, waste, and repetition. The same social order that organized work could distribute bodily burdens unevenly. None of this should be turned into a simple story that agriculture was only decline or only progress. It was both transformation and trade-off. It made civilization possible in many places, but it also placed ancient bodies inside denser, more repetitive, more socially complex worlds. Long before modern people felt tired under electric light, human bodies were already being reshaped by the consequences of living close together, working the same land, eating stored food, and carrying the costs of a new human arrangement. Some modern discomforts feel recent because the objects around them are recent. The desk, the car, the elevator, the electric light, the processed meal, the constant message, the silent room full of invisible pressure. But the deeper pattern did not begin with these objects alone. It became clearer much earlier, when human beings began living closer together, returning to the same places, depending on stored food, repeating specialized tasks, and building social worlds that were denser than many older forms of life. Settlement did not make the body wrong. It made the body live inside a new arrangement. The old systems remained. Appetite still cared about energy. Pain still warned against strain. Sleep still listened for safety. The nervous system still watched for danger and belonging. Muscles still needed use, and the immune system still responded to the living world around it. But the conditions surrounding those systems had changed. The body was now more often shaped by human-made spaces, human schedules, human stores of food, human waste, human animals, human rank, and human repetition. This is why some modern problems may have older roots than they first appear to have. A body that feels stiff after years of repeated posture is not facing something entirely new. Many settled lives also required repeated motions and fixed tasks, though in different forms. A body that feels uneasy in dense social life is not reacting to something invented by the internet alone. Human beings have long been social animals, and larger communities made belonging, status, obligation, and comparison more complex. A body that struggles with energy in a world of easy food is not only facing the supermarket, it is also part of a long history in which humans changed food from something mostly encountered through immediate ecology into something stored, processed, traded, controlled, and distributed through social systems. The beginning of bodily unease, therefore, has layers. The first layer is the ancient animal body, shaped by movement, hunger, sleep, pain, danger, and cooperation. A later layer is settlement, where humans began reorganizing the environment around that body. A still later layer is industry and modern life, where machines, screens, artificial light, and constant information push the mismatch further. If we skip the middle layer, the story becomes too simple. It sounds as if human beings were once perfectly matched to nature, and then suddenly modern life ruined everything. That is not true. The past was never perfect, and the body was never free from strain. But it is also not true that modern unease has no long history. Human beings have been changing their own environments for a very long time, and the body has been trying to keep up. The settled world made this more visible. It produced more stable homes, but also more crowded spaces. It produced stored food, but also dependence on harvests and labor. It produced larger communities, but also more complex social pressure. It produced new skills, but also repeated bodily demands. It produced protection from some dangers, but also closer contact with disease. The body carried all of these trade-offs forward. Archaeological and biological evidence cannot tell us every private feeling of ancient people, and it should not be used to invent certainty where none exists. But it can show broad patterns, changes in diet, labor, disease exposure, growth, injury, and stress. These traces remind us that the human body has long been shaped not only by wilderness, but by culture. Culture protects the body, feeds it, teaches it, shelters it, and extends its possibilities. Culture also asks the body to adapt to new pressures. The feeling that something is wrong may come from this double inheritance. We are not only ancient animals trapped in a modern world, we are ancient animals who have been building new worlds for thousands of years, each one solving some problems while passing other costs into the body. The discomfort of today is therefore not a single mistake. It is a long conversation between biology and history. It began before the office, before the screen, before the glowing city. It began when human life first became less dependent on moving through a changing landscape and more dependent on maintaining a world that humans themselves had made. Since then, the body has lived inside its own inventions, protected by them, burdened by them, and quietly marked by them. Machines did not only change work, they changed the meaning of effort. For most of the human story, tools extended the body, but they still required the body to remain deeply involved. A stone tool, a digging stick, a basket, a bow, a needle, a boat, a plough, a loom, or a hammer could make human action more powerful. But the hands, feet, back, lungs, eyes, and balance still had to work closely with the object. The body remained in conversation with weight, resistance, rhythm, distance, and material. Later machines changed this conversation more sharply. They could carry loads without human backs, move people without human walking, grind without human shoulders, lift without human arms, cool and heat without bodily exposure, produce light without fire, and repeat motions faster than any person could. These changes saved enormous labour. They reduced many injuries, expanded food production, allowed travel, protected people from harsh environments, and made modern life possible. It would be dishonest to describe machines only as a loss. They are also part of human care and intelligence. But every reduction of burden also changes the body's daily conditions. When machines take over effort, the body is relieved, but it may also be used less. When vehicles carry the legs are spared distance, but they lose some of the ordinary work that helped maintain endurance and circulation. When elevators carry the body upward, the body avoids strain, but it also misses a small, repeated challenge. When heating and cooling control the air, the body is protected, but its old systems for responding to temperature are less engaged. When screens bring work, memory, entertainment, and social life into one place, the body can remain still while the mind travels through many worlds. This is the modern paradox again. Human invention makes life easier, and the ancient body does not always become easier inside it. The beginning of the human body was shaped in contact with tasks that required energy. Effort was not always pleasant, and it was not always healthy. Too much labour could damage the body. Heavy loads, repetitive work, poor nutrition, injury, and exhaustion have marked human lives across history. But the complete removal of ordinary movement creates another kind of imbalance. The body needs use to remain organised. Muscle, bone, tendon, blood vessels, balance, breathing, and coordination all respond to demand. When demand becomes too low in some areas and too high in others, the body can feel strangely uneven. The hands may be overused while the legs are underused. The eyes may be strained while the back is still. The brain may be overloaded while the lungs have barely deepened. The nervous system may be alert all day, but the body has not completed the older cycle of effort, fatigue, and release. Machines allow this separation. A person can travel far without walking, eat food prepared by distant systems, work with symbols instead of tools, communicate without moving toward another person, and finish a day exhausted without having physically spent the body in a way it understands. This does not make modern life fake. Mental labour is real. Emotional labour is real. Care, planning, attention, and responsibility are real, but they place demand on the organism differently. The old body may answer with neck pain, shallow breath, restless sleep, cravings, low energy, stiffness, or a sense of being tired without having moved. It may not know how to translate modern effort into modern recovery. Earlier physical effort often carried clearer endings. A load was moved, a path was finished, a tool was put down, a field, a fire, a shelter, a meal, or a repair had a visible shape. Machine life can make work more abstract and less complete. Messages continue. Systems continue. Numbers continue. Tasks remain behind glass. The body sits in a chair while the mind handles invisible burdens. This is why machines are not separate from the question of what feels wrong. They change the environment around the body more quickly than biology could fully follow. They removed many old dangers, but they also removed many old cues. The body was freed from some forms of hardship, yet it was also separated from the movements, rhythms, temperatures, distances, and material resistance that once helped organize it. Modern comfort is therefore not only softness, it is automation. It is the world doing for the body what the body once had to do for itself, and the body still waiting quietly for the work that no longer arrives. The body changes slowly because biology is written through generations, not through inventions. A new tool can appear in a single lifetime. A new machine can enter a house in a few years. A new way of working can spread through a society faster than the body can become something else. This is one of the deepest mismatches in modern life. The environment can transform quickly, while the human organism remains tied to older requirements. Movement, sleep, light and darkness, food regulation, social contact, recovery, temperature response, and meaningful physical rhythm. A person may live among machines that remove walking, lifting, carrying, reaching, waiting, and remembering, yet the body inside that life is not newly made. It still belongs to the long human line of bodies that adjusted to ground, weather, distance, hunger, effort, and other people. This does not mean technology is unnatural in a simple or negative sense. Human beings have always used tools. Tool-making is one of the great features of our species and its relatives. Cooking, clothing, shelters, containers, fire, blades, needles, boats, wheels, writing, and agriculture all changed what the body had to do. Human life has never been purely biological, untouched by culture, but modern machines have accelerated the distance between what the body needs and what daily life asks from it. The body may need varied movement, while work asks for long sitting. The body may need darkness, while rooms remain bright. The body may need social presence, while social signals arrive through screens. The body may need effort followed by release, while modern stress asks for attention without action. The body may need food signals that match need, while the world offers constant cues. These changes are not evil. They are powerful, useful, and often protective, but the speed of change matters. Evolution does not redesign the spine because chairs became common. It does not redesign appetite because food became available at any hour. It does not redesign sleep because electric light entered the night. It does not redesign the nervous system because danger now often arrives as information, reputation, money, or future possibility. The old systems remain, and they try to function in the new world as best they can. This is why the body can feel out of date without being defective. It is not failing to become modern quickly enough. It is carrying a slower inheritance. The beginning of human life did not prepare the body for constant convenience, but for adaptive response. Bones strengthen when they meet load. Muscles maintain themselves through use. Balance improves when it is challenged. The eyes need distance as well as closeness. The brain uses light to judge time. The gut responds to food, stress, sleep, and rhythm together. The nervous system calms more easily when the body receives enough signals that the day has shifted towards safety and rest. Modern machines can interrupt these relationships by making life easier in one dimension while making it less coherent in another. A car saves the legs but also removes ordinary walking. A washing machine saves labor but also reduces a kind of repeated bodily work. A phone connects people but also brings social signals into every hour. A screen holds knowledge, work, and entertainment, but keeps the eyes and posture fixed. A redundant controlled room protects from harsh weather, but can make the body less aware of natural change. The result is not a simple decline. It is a rearrangement. The body is protected from some old burdens and exposed to some new ones. It may suffer less from certain forms of heavy labor, yet more from underuse, repetition, overstimulation, and disrupted rhythm. It may be safer, yet less settled. It may be comfortable, yet less aligned with its own history. This is the strange, quiet cost of rapid invention. The world can be updated quickly, but the body cannot update in the same way. It continues to ask for the conditions that shaped its basic systems, even when those conditions no longer organize the day. When the body aches after sitting, wakes under artificial light, craves energy without true shortage, or feels alert in a safe room, it may be showing the gap between cultural speed and biological time. Machines change the room, the road, the work, the night, and the hand's relationship with the world. The body followed as far as it could, but it did not become new all at once. It still moves through modern life with an older map. Technology moves quickly because it lives outside the body. It can be designed, replaced, upgraded, copied, and spread. Biology moves differently. It carries the slow memory of generations, shaped by pressures that lasted long enough to leave a mark. This difference between technological speed and biological time is one of the clearest reasons the modern body can feel uneasy in its own life. A tool can change the way a person works in a day. A machine can change how a household uses energy in a decade. A screen can change attention across a culture in a single generation. But the spine, the eyes, the appetite system, the nervous system, the sleep cycle, the muscles, and the joints do not become new simply because the surroundings do. They can tell us to operate with older assumptions about movement, light, food, effort, risk, and rest. The modern world asks the body to live by inventions that arrived much faster than the body could be reshaped around them. This is not a rejection of technology. Machines have prevented suffering, extended life, reduced heavy labor, improved communication, protected people from weather, and made care possible in ways earlier humans could not have imagined. The question is not whether machines are good or bad. The question is what happens when an ancient body must depend on a world of very recent speed. The answer is not simple collapse. It is friction. The body may be safer, but more still. Better fed, but more confused by appetite. More connected, but more socially stimulated. Warmer, but less guided by natural temperature. More informed, but less able to rest from signal. More productive, but less physically complete at the end of the day. This friction is quiet, because it often looks like normal life. A person sits in a chair, looks at a screen, answers messages, eats food made by distant systems, travels in a vehicle, sleeps under artificial conditions, and wakes to repeat the same pattern. Nothing in this scene looks like danger. Yet the body may feel stiff, tired, hungry too soon, restless at night, or alert without a clear reason. The beginning of the trouble is not only in the present routine, but in the distance between that routine and the conditions that shape the body's basic language. The body understands weight, breath, contact, distance, darkness, warmth, hunger, fatigue, and social presence. Modern technology often translates these into symbols, buttons, images, numbers, and signals. Work becomes words on a screen. Social life becomes messages. Food becomes immediate choice. Travel becomes sitting. Night becomes optional. Effort becomes mental strain without bodily completion. The body is still involved, but not in the older balanced way. Some parts are overused, while others are ignored. The eyes and attention work intensely. The hands repeat small motions. The neck holds the head. The nervous system tracks many demands. Meanwhile, the legs, hips, back, lungs, and balance may receive too little variation. This is why the body can feel both overstimulated and underused. It is not receiving too much life or too little life in a simple sense. It is receiving life in a distorted pattern. Cultural change has always been part of being human, but modern change compresses that process. What once shifted across many generations can now shift within childhood, adulthood, or even a few years. The body has to live inside updates it never biologically voted for. It still asks for sleep to follow light and dark. It still asks movement to keep tissue prepared. It still asks food to match need and rhythm. It still asks social signals to have boundaries. It still asks stress to end somewhere in the body. When these requests are not heard, discomfort becomes the message. The ache, the craving, the wakefulness, the fatigue, and the tension are not proof that the body has failed the modern world. They may be proof that the modern world has changed faster than the body can quietly accept. The old body keeps trying to cooperate. It sits in the chair, follows the screen, rides in the machine, eats the available food, and sleeps under electric light. But beneath all of this cooperation, it carries an older rhythm. It remembers, without thought, that life once had more direct contact with ground, weather, effort, darkness, distance, and other bodies nearby. The world has accelerated. The body has endured. And between those two facts, the feeling of something wrong becomes easier to understand. Not every discomfort is proof that the body is defective. This may be the gentlest truth in the whole question. A tired body is not always a failed body. A restless mind is not always a broken mind. A craving is not always a weakness. A stiff back is not always a sign that something has collapsed. A shallow sleep is not always a personal defeat. The body is a living system trying to interpret conditions that are often confusing, contradictory, and too new for its older design. It is important to say this carefully, because the body can truly suffer. Pain can be serious. Sleep can become deeply disturbed. Hunger, fatigue, anxiety, and weakness can have medical, emotional, social, and environmental causes that deserve attention. But the larger story should not begin with blame. Modern people are often taught to treat every bodily signal as a private failure of discipline, attitude, productivity, or control. If they are tired, they think they should be stronger. If they cannot sleep, they think they should be calmer. If they ache, they think they should be younger or fitter. If they feel anxious, they think they should be more rational. This way of thinking makes the body into an enemy. It forgets that many signals began as protection, adaptation, and survival. Hunger helped living bodies seek fuel. Pain helped protect tissue. Fear helped detect risk. Fatigue helped conserve energy. Sleep restored and regulated the organism. Social sensitivity helped human beings remain connected to others. These signals are not modern inventions. They reach back into the long beginning of human life, where the body had to stay alive under changing conditions. The trouble is not that these systems exist. The trouble is that they now operate inside environments that often give them mixed instructions. Eat, but be surrounded by food all day. Rest, but remain reachable. Be safe, but keep reading danger from screens. Sit still, but stay alert. Be comfortable, but do not move. Be productive, but ignore the body until it interrupts. Under such conditions, it is not surprising that the body speaks in confusing ways. What feels wrong may sometimes be an old signal meeting a new world. This does not mean the signal should be obeyed without thought or dismissed without care. It means the signal deserves interpretation. A body that hurts may be asking for attention, not hatred. A mind that worries may be showing the old importance of uncertainty and belonging. A tired system may be revealing that mental pressure can exhaust even when the muscles have done little. A body that wakes in the night may not be refusing rest. It may be carrying a sleep system shaped to remain partly responsive to the world. None of this makes suffering beautiful, and none of it turns discomfort into wisdom automatically. But it does give the person a wider frame. The body is not simply a machine that should perform smoothly under any condition. It is a historical organism. It was shaped through movement, danger, food scarcity, social dependence, injury, repair, childbirth, childhood, weather, disease, cooperation, and memory. Then it was carried through settlement, agriculture, crowded life, repeated labor, machines, artificial light, and information. It lives today in rooms built by recent culture, but it still answers with systems much older than those rooms. To understand this is not to escape responsibility for health or daily choices. It is to remove the unnecessary cruelty of self-blame. The body may need care, change, medical help, rest, movement, or a different rhythm, but needing those things does not mean it has failed. It means it is alive, responsive, and still negotiating between a deep past and a very fast present. When something feels wrong, the first question does not have to be, "What is wrong with me?" It may be gentler and more accurate to ask, "What is this old body trying to protect? And what kind of world is it being asked to live in now?" Many of the body's signals were once useful because they were direct. Hunger pointed toward the need for fuel. Sleepiness pointed toward the need for restoration. Pain pointed toward protection. Fear pointed toward possible danger. Social unease pointed toward the importance of belonging. These signals were never perfect, but they had practical value in a world where the body had to keep itself alive through changing conditions. The modern problem is that the signals still arrive, while the original setting around them has changed. Hunger may rise in a room full of food, where the body is not facing real shortage but is surrounded by smell, habit, stress, memory, an easy reward. Sleepiness may come during the day because the night was filled with light, worry, noise, or irregular timing. Pain may appear after long sitting, not because the body has crossed a dramatic physical danger, but because stillness, repetition, and tension have become too familiar. Fear may rise before a message, a meeting, or a future event that cannot be escaped by running, hiding, or fighting. Social unease may grow from silence on a screen, even though no one has physically turned away. The body is not inventing nonsense. It is translating modern life into older language. That translation is often rough. It can make a safe room feel unsettled, a full stomach feel unfinished, a soft bed feel difficult, and a quiet evening feel strangely alert. This is one of the reasons the title feels true without being a simple diagnosis. Something can feel wrong because an old mechanism is working outside its original context. The mechanism may not be broken, but the situation has become strange. A smoke alarm is useful when there is smoke, but if the air around it is filled with steam, dust, and heat from harmless sources, it may sound too often. The body has many such alarms, and most of them are older than the lives we now live. The nervous system does not always know whether uncertainty comes from a predator, a debt, a silence, a medical result, or a social comparison. It only knows that uncertainty matters. Appetite does not always know whether energy is scarce or merely advertised. It only knows that energy has mattered for as long as bodies have had to survive. Pain does not always know whether danger comes from a wound, a posture, a repeated motion, poor recovery, or old memory. It only knows that protection is safer than indifference. Sleep does not always know whether the night is truly settled. It only knows that darkness once required both rest and listening. In the deep beginning of human life, these systems were woven into the world itself. Movement, food, light, weather, social presence, and danger were not separated into neat categories. A person's body learned from the whole environment at once. Modern life often separates them. It gives light without day, food without effort, social contact without physical presence, stress without movement, safety without calm, and comfort without rhythm. The body receives these mixed messages and answers with the tools it has always had. That answer may feel like anxiety, craving, stiffness, fatigue, shallow sleep, restlessness, or a vague sense that the body cannot fully settle. To call this a personal failure is too narrow. To call it only a disease is also too narrow, unless there is a clear condition that needs care. There is a middle truth. Many modern discomforts are old systems doing difficult work in a new landscape. This does not make the discomfort harmless. It simply makes it more understandable. A person does not need to hate the body for protecting too quickly, storing too carefully, listening too closely, or waking too easily. These habits come from a long chain of survival, and they now need a calmer interpretation. The body is not always telling the exact truth about the present moment, but it may be telling a true story about the past it came from. It may be saying that it was shaped for a world where energy, danger, pain, sleep, and belonging were never abstract ideas. They were immediate conditions of life. Now those same conditions arrive as symbols, routines, screens, schedules, memories, and expectations. The body responds as best it can, using old instruments to play a very new song. Understanding the body's history does not remove discomfort, but it can soften the way discomfort is heard. A person who knows nothing of the body's past may hear every signal as failure. The ache becomes weakness. The craving becomes lack of control. The restless night becomes a personal defeat. The anxious breath becomes irrationality. But when the body is placed back inside the long story that formed it, those same signals become less lonely. They are still difficult. They may still need care, but they no longer seem like proof that the person is broken. They begin to look like messages from a living inheritance, shaped by hunger, danger, movement, darkness, pain, social need, and the slow work of survival. This wider view does not ask anyone to romanticize the past. The older human world was not a paradise of perfect health. It contained injury, disease, fear, loss, cold, heat, hunger, and uncertainty. It also contained adaptation, skill, cooperation, rest, knowledge, and endurance. The body came from that mixture. It was not made for constant suffering, and it was not made for perfect ease. It was made through compromise. When we understand that, the modern body becomes easier to forgive. It is not a machine that forgot its duty. It is a deep biological record trying to live inside a world of chairs, screens, clocks, stored food, artificial light, private rooms, abstract work, and constant information. Some of its reactions are out of place, but they are not without origin. A craving may carry the shadow of ancient energy caution. A stiff back may carry the unmet expectation of movement. A shallow sleep may carry the older need to listen through the night. A tense chest may carry the nervous system's habit of preparing before danger is fully known. These explanations are not final answers for every person, and they should never replace real care when suffering is serious. But they offer a calmer beginning. Instead of asking only how to silence the body, we can ask what condition the body is responding to. Instead of treating discomfort as an insult, we can treat it as information. The beginning of human life still matters because the body has not become separate from it. The body does not know that modern discomfort should be neatly categorized into work stress, poor posture, late light, easy food, social pressure, and lack of movement. It experiences all of these as one lived environment. It responds through old pathways because those are the pathways it has. This understanding can reduce self-blame. It can remind a person that many bodily struggles are shared, not because everyone is the same, but because everyone carries some version of the same ancient inheritance. To be human is to live with a body that is older than the world it now inhabits. That fact can be unsettling, but it can also be kind. It means the body's signals deserve patience before judgment. They deserve careful listening before contempt. They deserve a view wide enough to include not only personal habits but also history, environment, culture, work, technology, and time. The body may need support. It may need rest, movement, medical care, quiet, connection, or a different rhythm. But needing support is not failure. It is the ordinary condition of a living organism. Modern culture often praises control, speed, and silence. It wants the body to perform without interruption and to remain young, calm, lean, strong, rested, focused, and comfortable under almost any condition. The body cannot always obey that demand, because the demand is newer than the body. The more honest lesson is humbler. We are not separate minds trapped inside faulty flesh. We are living histories. We carry old protections, old hungers, old alarms, old rhythms, and old needs into rooms that were built only recently. When something feels wrong, it may not be the end of trust in the body. It may be the beginning of a more patient relationship with it, one that listens for the long past inside the present and answers without cruelty. The ancient body does not need to be treated as an enemy. It can be difficult, yes. It can ache at the wrong time, wake when it should sleep, crave when it has eaten, tense when the room is safe, and grow tired under pressures that do not look physical from the outside. But difficulty is not the same as betrayal. The body is not standing against the person. It is carrying a long inheritance through a world that has changed around it. To live with this body is to live with something older than personal memory, older than family history, older than the languages we use to describe ourselves. It is a body shaped by ground, weather, hunger, sleep, pain, cooperation, fear, repair, movement, and time. It is not simple. It is not perfectly suited to modern rooms, but it is not meaningless in its discomfort. It is still trying to protect, conserve, warn, restore, and belong. This is why the final movement of the question should not be hatred toward the body. It should be a slower recognition. The body has never been a smooth machine built for uninterrupted productivity. It is a living record of survival, and survival always involved compromise. A nervous system that listened too closely may now create worry, but its deeper purpose was protection. An appetite that values energy may now feel inconvenient, but its deeper purpose was survival through uncertainty. Pain may interrupt the day, but its deeper purpose was to guard tissue before harm became worse. Fatigue may feel like weakness, but its deeper purpose was to stop the organism from spending beyond its limits. Sleep may be fragile, but its deeper purpose was to restore the body while still leaving it connected to the edge of the world. These systems can become misplaced in modern life. They can become too loud, too frequent, or too hard to interpret. But they began as forms of care. They are not proof that the body is wrong in its essence. They are proof that the body was built for a conversation with conditions that no longer surround it in the same way. The beginning of human life still speaks through ordinary modern scenes. A person sitting under artificial light may feel a tension that belongs partly to the old need for rhythm. A person lying in a warm bed may feel wakefulness that belongs partly to the old need for safety. A person standing in front of easy food may feel desire that belongs partly to the old respect for energy. A person growing older may feel time not as one event, but as a record of every repeated demand the body has carried. None of this should be turned into a romantic story about going backward. The past was not a cure. It was full of hardship, and many modern protections are real gifts. Clean water, shelter, medicine, warmth, tools, and shared knowledge have changed human life in ways that deserve gratitude. The point is not to reject the modern world. The point is to understand why the body may not feel fully at home inside it. A new world can protect an old body while also confusing it. A comfortable life can remove danger while also removing rhythm. A connected life can reduce loneliness while also increasing signal. A productive life can reduce physical labor while increasing mental strain. The body receives all of this and answers with the only language it has. It aches, tightens, wakes, hungers, slows, remembers, and asks for attention. If there is value in understanding this, it is the value of gentleness, not passivity, not denial, not pretending every discomfort is harmless, but gentleness before judgment. The body may need care, it may need help, it may need different conditions, but it does not need to be hated for being ancient. It has carried human life through cold, hunger, injury, birth, fear, work, migration, settlement, invention, and memory. It has entered the modern world still bearing the marks of that journey. To live with it wisely begins by seeing that the question is not only what is wrong with the body, it is also what long story the body is still trying to finish. To understand the body as history is to become less cruel toward it. This may be the quiet educational value at the heart of the whole journey. The body is not only a private possession, not only an object to improve, not only a problem to manage. It is a record of human life passing through environments, tools, climates, foods, shelters, dangers, families, illnesses, work, rest, and time. Every person carries that record differently, but no one carries a body without history. When the back aches, the answer is not always found only in the chair. The chair matters, but so does the long story of upright walking, movement, posture, labor, and stillness. When sleep breaks, the answer is not always found only in the bedroom. The bedroom matters, but so does the older nature of sleep as a guarded state, shaped under darkness, sound, temperature, and the need for safety. When hunger returns too soon, the answer is not always found only in the meal. The meal matters, but so does the ancient seriousness of energy in a world where food could never be treated as meaningless. When worry rises without a visible threat, the answer is not always found only in the thought. The thought matters, but so does the nervous system's long habit of preparing before danger becomes certain. This way of seeing does not solve every problem. It does not replace medicine, care, rest, or practical change. But it gives the listener a more truthful starting place. The body is not a blank machine that should adapt instantly to every modern demand. It is a living inheritance, and inheritances need interpretation. They contain useful gifts and difficult burdens at the same time. The gift is sensitivity, memory, protection, endurance, appetite, repair, social connection, and the ability to adapt. The burden is that these same qualities can become heavy in a world of artificial light, constant food, long sitting, repeated stress, social comparison, and speed. A sensitive nervous system can help protect life, but it can also worry in a safe room. A body that conserves energy can survive uncertainty, but it can also resist movement when movement is no longer naturally required. A pain system can protect tissue, but it can also become too loud when strain is slow and hidden. A sleep system can listen through the night, but it can also wake too easily when modern signals never fully end. The same body that helped human beings survive can become difficult in the world human beings created. That is not failure. It is a trade-off, carried forward. The beginning of the human story was never separate from the body's needs. To live was to negotiate with ground, weather, hunger, darkness, injury, other people, and the limits of energy. Modern life has changed that negotiation, but it has not removed it. We still negotiate with light, food, movement, safety, belonging, and rest. Only now the forms are different. Ground has become floors. Darkness has become optional. Hunger has become surrounded by choice. Social life has become both nearer and farther away. Work has become less physical for many people, but not necessarily less demanding. Rest has become more comfortable, but sometimes less complete. The body stands at the center of all these changes, trying to make sense of them through systems older than the changes themselves. There is humility in this recognition. It reminds us that being human is not only a matter of thought or will, it is also a matter of biology meeting history. The body is not something beneath the mind. It is the mind's ground, its weather, its first home. When it speaks through fatigue, stiffness, hunger, wakefulness, or unease, it may not speak perfectly, but it speaks from a long education. Listening to it with patience does not mean obeying every signal blindly. It means refusing to treat every signal as shame. It means asking what conditions shape the message, what old need might be hidden inside it, and what part of modern life may be pressing on an ancient system. The lesson is simple, but not small. The body becomes easier to live with when it is understood as a survivor, not as a failure. If the body could speak in a language older than words, it might not say that everything is wrong. It might say that everything has a history. The tiredness, the stiffness, the hunger that comes too soon, the sleep that opens and closes through the night, the worry that rises in a safe room, the pain that asks for attention before the mind understands why. None of these signals can be reduced to one cause, and none should be turned into a simple story. Human beings are too complex for that. A body is shaped by age, work, illness, rest, food, stress, care, movement, memory, culture, and many conditions no person fully controls. But beneath all of those layers is a deeper fact. The body did not begin in the world where it now lives. It began in changing landscapes under changing skies among other bodies, with hunger, cold, heat, distance, effort, danger, healing, and sleep all woven into one long condition of being alive. Then human beings built shelters, villages, fields, roads, machines, clocks, screens, and rooms, where the ancient body could be protected in ways it had never known before. That protection is real. It should not be dismissed. Modern life has saved human beings from many old hardships, but the body did not become fully modern simply because the world around it did. It still carries older needs into newer spaces. It still asks for rhythm, not only comfort. It still asks for movement, not only rest. It still asks for darkness, not only a bed. It still asks for belonging, not only contact. It still asks for recovery, not only escape. It still asks for meaning through the whole body, not only through thought. When those needs are ignored, the body may not explain itself gently. It may ache, it may wake, it may crave, it may tense, it may slow down, it may become louder than the person wants. But perhaps the most useful lesson is not to hear these signals as proof of failure. Perhaps they are better heard as reminders that human life has changed faster than human biology can quietly forget. The body is not a perfect guide, but it is not an enemy. It can misread modern life, but it does not speak from nowhere. It speaks from the old seriousness of survival. Pain says that limits matter. Hunger says that energy once mattered deeply. Fear says that uncertainty was never small. Fatigue says that no living system can spend without return. Sleep says that restoration needs trust. Aging says that time leaves a record. These messages may arrive in the wrong setting, too strongly or too often, but their roots are not empty. They come from the long story that made us. To live with an ancient body in a new world is therefore to practice a kind of patience. Not the patience of doing nothing, but the patience of listening before judging. The body may need support, care, and sometimes help beyond what a person can give alone. It may need gentler rhythms, clearer endings, more honest rest, more movement, less constant signal, or simply less shame. But whatever it needs, it does not need to be hated for carrying the past. It has carried human beings through environments that changed, societies that changed, tools that changed, and lives that changed again and again. It has been protected by our inventions and burdened by them. It has adapted, endured, resisted, and remembered. Something may feel wrong with your body, but the wrongness is not always a defect. Sometimes it is the sound of a long history meeting a world too new to feel natural. And if the body is still telling that history quietly, through fatigue, hunger, pain, sleep, fear, and age, then the final question is not how to silence it completely, but what kind of listening should we give it now?